Out of the gates and ready to go. OutKick 360 is underway from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. The crew is all here. Friday edition. We're going to get you to the college football and NFL weekend. Jam-packed show. Plenty to talk about. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Paul, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Looking good.
I think I can rev up for 3 hours and then return to
looking fit.
Return to couch mode. I don't know if I'm making it to Indianapolis, and then hopefully Monday I'll be.
Paul, has Chad ever said "looking fit" to you?
Looking fit?
Yeah, you look fit.
Thank you.
I mean, I have
not lost my appetite. I will say that.
I see something, I diagnose it, and I say what it is.
Fair enough.
I've not lost my
right
taste or my smell. I am a one-symptom guy. Massive headache, and it's not gone.
Paul,
it's just reduced a little.
Paul had COVID. We didn't say that, so that's what you've been dealing with this week. So you're saying one symptom the whole time was a headache?
Yes, and I still have
But you also say that you're
mildly
but you want to go back to sleep. So also
I'm saying I think I have 3 good hours in me, and at the end of that, I will be exhausted.
Okay. From headaches?
That's my goal.
Well, over the next 3 hours,
I'm tired,
the show is going to fly by, and Paul's going to be exhausted throughout. That's what he's telling you.
Well, that's what
at
we
the
want.
end.
Like we want this sprint.
Yeah, I'm going to give you good 3 hours, and at the end of that 3 hours, I'm going to be like, I got to go home and lay down.
It's both a sprint and a marathon today. That's what we're saying. Hutton, this guest list leads everyone to believe that it is going to be both a sprint and a marathon because it's terrific.
Dr. David Chow from Pro Football Doc, also OutKick.com contributor. He will join us a little bit later in the show. We'll go through two. We're going to give our opinions on this coming up. Jim Leyritz back on the show. He will join us from Yankee Stadium he's either there or he will join us on the way to Yankee Stadium as the Orioles face the Yankees tonight. And Aaron Judge goes for 62.
I believe the Orioles will throw Aaron Judge strikes. I believe that they have no incentive to not throw him. I mean, they're not going to throw him meatball strikes, but I believe they'll pitch to him.
Yeah. Why not?
But are you saying you disagree with what the Blue Jays did?
Well, the Blue Jays
had something to lose.
Yeah, the Blue Jays were trying to pitch. Were trying to win.
You missed this, but I don't disagree with anything Toronto did.
But there were a couple situations where it did not serve them greatly to walk him.
Except for the fact that he's hit 60 and the next best home run hitter has hit, 40?
Yeah, I would always walk him. Yeah. Like if you're talking about strategy,
if playoffs are on the line,
he's been playing,
I have no issue with Toronto doing that.
Here's where you're getting at, Paul. The Orioles have no playoff possibility, so they're just going to pitch away. They're not going to try to give up a home run, but they're going to they're going to pitch away. But the Blue Jays,
his patience was remarkable.
Even if they
pitch
him
take those walks and not chase, and he did chase a couple that he missed, but then he maintained his average and stayed right there, Triple Crown race-wise. I think he's still the leader in average because he was busy walking, so he wasn't adding at-bats to his
But he didn't walk
record.
that much. He was still getting hits. He just wasn't hitting home runs.
Right.
If you look at his numbers, it wasn't like he was in a slump.
No, it's remarkable to be disappointed by doubles in clutch situations in games that are clinching you the AL East. The whole thing ties you in a big
Well,
knot.
I mean, so to me, the most underlooked part of this whole Aaron Judge story is the Triple Crown. Miguel Cabrera in 2012, and before that in the American League, was it Carl Yastrzemski
in 67 or 69?
I mean, 67 to 2012 to 2022. That's like I talked about.
And to do it with a home run record.
Oh, who cares? This and that, and steroids, whatever. I said it was 1961 that this last happened in the American
61
League
years ago.
with a guy that Roger Maris, based on every depiction I've seen, was pretty pure. Guys in that era were on everything other than steroids to get through the day and get through a game. But Hutton, you and I aren't as, hemmed into the whole steroid era argument.
Right.
But it's important historically because it's been since 1961 that we've seen this. I know you agree, Paul.
Oh.
But it's history.
And I've seen some conversation about it, and we can get into it at another time, too, especially after you hit 62. But there's just no countdown that's anything similar. Somebody going for the basketball single season record, there's just nothing.
It doesn't.
And this is where the baseball uniqueness takes over, right? I couldn't tell you what the single season, and this isn't even the real record, or this isn't even the official record.
I know.
But there's still this magic to it, and we couldn't tell you the records in any other sports, and there wouldn't be any any magic to it in any other sport. But
here
we are.
That's the reason for it, though, is that Bonds has it. ESPN covered it as if it was the record, but they're not covering this in the same fashion because it's not Bonds, but yet they won't mention that because it was Bonds, and they covered Bonds on roids.
Yeah,
so
now they're patching it over like that didn't happen.
At least that's my perception of it. I'm not saying that's been an edict from top down, but that's the feel of it is, you're 10 off. You're 11 off from the record now. So
and Judge is saying that. I think Judge has handled everything perfectly.
Well,
and to Judge, the record is Bonds' record. He grew up in the Bay Area.
That's fine.
He's got no objection to that. So he's letting other people say what they want to say. But to him,
I think
he's dealing with Maris and an AL record and a Yankee record.
But the Hall of Fame voters, the fans, the players, I think everyone, for the most part, if you polled the players, Kurt Schilling was on Dockage yesterday and said the same thing. Like, he views this record as the record.
As the record.
Based on his experience with the steroid era.
I haven't really thought about it as that. I've thought about it as Maris and the Yankees, and then the distance. When they put up those numbers that he's number one in every single category, and not just that, but how far he's outdistancing everybody, the margin that he has on Schwarber and the margin that he has on everybody, and if he does it with the Triple Crown, Chad, I mean, it's just one of the most remarkable offensive seasons we're ever going to see. And certainly if you New York Times had a graphic today that showed like where everybody, it's kind of stepladder graphic, in what game did you hit what home run? And you could click a button and take out the steroid guys. So there's a graphic and there's an overlay.
As if they know every steroid guy.
Well, you could take out the major ones. You take out Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds. So you take out the overlay of the top guys over the thing. So you could pick which way you want to look at it.
I just hate that we've got anything out there in this moment that's just going to hang over it, and we've seen it in our YouTube chat. We've seen it on Twitter all weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we cutting into football games and a guy that's 12 away from a record?
A lot of people.
Now he's 12 short of the record. Great, good for him. Who cares? And then other people, the Maris family, Kurt Schilling, saying, "Oh no, this is the record."
But Schilling,
I hate that
Maris
we have
family, no one's mentioning the record unless it's a player. The networks, the league, they're not mentioning the home run record because it references.
How are they couching it?
American League record.
American League record.
Yeah, that's how everybody's saying it.
Well, it's funny here. I'll go devil's advocate here.
But
they've blended the leagues. They've gotten rid of the DH. Next year, you play the same amount of games almost across league. But now they care about the division.
But the
it's
fans like
convenient
myself have seen Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds surpass it and then some. So the fact that Judge has reached Maris is that was so 1999, 2000. Great. Like, I grew up with that. Show me something else. But they're not packaging it. It's a different.
Yeah, they're packaging it to make it bigger.
Well, I don't think they are. I think they have slow played this throughout the season because they realize that people aren't watching baseball nearly as much.
Yeah, it's way smaller than
ratings
98.
Ratings are up, but what does it mean?
It's way smaller.
Way different.
Yeah, I mean, people are complaining at 11 a.m. kickoff for Auburn and
that's,
Missouri.
That's the weird thing
that
about
you're
all
breaking
this.
Into
is,
coverage
well, the college
to show
football
Judge
audience of passionate people for those teams, I understand not caring. It's the wrong audience to break into.
This is a league that prides itself on numbers and the record and sanctimonious. We are greater than thou when it comes to determining who's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But yet you have an audience that's like, yeah, we really don't care. Like, he's going to hit 61. Cool. The record.
It's a weird divide. I think that's what I keep getting at. It would be cool if this was a moment where people looked at it and said, man, it's been since 1961, and we all saw the HBO movie about Mantle and Maris and Babe Ruth and everything else and chasing history, and this is a great moment for sports we can all unite behind. Instead, what it has become is what everything is right now in our country. It is college football fans bemoaning the fact that their Auburn-Missouri game gets broken into with the home run chase.
But it's not just
that.
And
then people saying, what's the big deal? He's 12 away. And then other people saying, oh, no, it's a very big deal because it's the actual record. Well, it's actually not.
But I don't hear the league or the networks explaining that. It's just sports talk radio and fans discussing whether or not it matters. Growing up, I'm a college football and NFL fan growing up. massive. I still cared about the home run record. And I don't think that the public cares enough about this one and the magnitude of what it could mean moving forward for the league. And the league is to blame, not Judge, not the Yankees, not us. The league has not embraced this to the point where there has been some chase to Maris. It's been storyline number 5 on any headline you want to look at since August.
Yeah, pretty consistent.
And that's not fair to Judge or Maris or the record based on what we have seen and the voters that have said, we're not letting these people into the Hall of Fame because they did this. Okay, well, now you've got Aaron Judge. So prop this guy up on a pedestal, and I think people are hesitant to do that.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't know how much power they have to get it from 5 to 1. You know what I mean?
Well, I know ESPN has the power to put something that's 5th, number 1 on their headline list.
Yes, they do.
So, and they're in bed
priority.
with the MLB and the NFL.
It's not their priority.
So
you're right.
But it's the Yankees. If this were in Kansas City,
then it'd be 10.
We would be blaming the market size.
We would.
But the fact that it's the Yankees and it's Aaron Judge, and it's a contract year, it's weird that it's kind of a sub-B headline.
Let's see what happens for 62.
Concussion.
Because some people have been talking like 61's more important than 62, which it is not. That's silliness to talk about tying a record.
Breaking
a record is bigger.
So in 99, 98, 98, if we go back, McGuire, Sosa, would a B-level quarterback, which everyone would Tua at best, is not elite. He's in that next group based on what we've seen this year, and he was a prove-it year before he even kicked off the season. In that era, would Tua Tagovailoa had led headlines today?
No, but 15 years later, the tectonic plates have shifted.
Well, that's
a lot in 15 years, which is crazy to say.
Cat's out
nearly
of the bag.
25 years. I mean, again,
25?
Cat's out of the bag. I mean, there's nothing that can unite people's interests like the NFL. It's not even close. Nothing can do it. I mean, the fact that we're not talking about Tua right now, we may be the only show in America not opening up with Tua.
And we just got kind of sidelined.
I'm not saying that as a criticism.
No,
I'm saying that as well. At least we're different. But we may be the only national show not opening with Tua because everyone I know is talking about Tua and the injury last night, and not everyone's talking about Aaron Judge.
And we'll get there in a second. We've talked latency issues, lag time.
Yes.
Here's lag time in my house. I'm watching it on Yes Network.
Okay.
Through extra innings package. Okay, so that's satellites, whatever going on.
And then Wi-Fi.
No, through cable.
Oh, okay.
Through Comcast cable. Teresa downstairs, we're separately quarantined, is watching it on MLB TV, MLB Network, which is picking up the same feed. MLB Network is picking up Yes. She cheers 12 seconds before it happens for me. She said, "There it is." And I said, "I'm behind you." And she said, "Sorry." And it still hasn't happened for me.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, that's not
and
good.
It's not fair in that I'm watching the thing that we're paying, but like MLB Network is basic cable, and I'm watching something I pay for extra, and I get it second. Not that it's a federal issue, but these are the kind of things we talk about sometimes.
Coming up, we've got Jim Leyritz in about 15 minutes. When we come back, we'll dive into Tua Tagovailoa, the concussion last night, the week that was going in now for them on the long weekend, and what we saw last night, which was disturbing, and what we saw last Sunday, which was disturbing. We'll give our opinion versus what the NFL and the NFLPA and Tua have said over the last 7+ days. We will also later in the show preview all things NFL Week 4. We'll get into the college football games of the week through Chad. We've got props, moneyline bets, much, much more. Jim Leyritz in 15 minutes. Tua next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You remember when Myles Garrett took the helmet off and swung it at Mason Rudolph? What did he say? Well, Mason Rudolph said racist things to me. Turned out to be crap. Happened the other day, turned out to be crap. All right? It happened about a month ago, turned out to be crap. He said, that's the new go-to. When you act like an idiot on a football field, you then go to, he said racist things to me. It's no different than that little Duke volleyball player lying about racist stuff at BYU. Nobody's ever going to cover the lie. All we're going to do is paint a guy with a brush that he says racist things because some idiot acts like an idiot. Next thing you know, he's got to cover himself. I like Chris Jones and I like Matt Ryan. I'm going to tell you why. Colts game, Chris Jones sacks Matt Ryan. It's going to be 4th down and 1,000,000. And the Colts haven't moved the ball from me to that camera in front of me. Chris Jones, for whatever the reason, pushes down on Matt Ryan. No call. They're in a scrum. It's all right.
Well, I've seen enough of Tua to know that he's the future of this franchise. I mean, he made 2 throws last week that very few people can make, and and he's done that all season long, and he's done it really from the beginning. I think now he's healthy. He's around a coaching staff that has confidence in him and has provided confidence for him. And I think he needed a couple of games like he had, the 6-touchdown game 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, where he led a furious second-half comeback.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tomi. Don't forget to follow me on social media at Tomi Lahren. And in case you missed my last show, here's what you missed. Hashtag Bring Back Masks was trending on Twitter this week because, as we know, liberals love masks. They always have and they always will. They will wear masks on planes, on trains, in automobiles alone, on playgrounds, on nature hikes, in the shower. You name it, they will wear 1 mask or even 2 in that place, regardless if other humans or breathing organisms are present or not. Hell, they love their freaking masks, even when the science tells us they are next to useless. And even when the CDC, which it has dropped much of its masking guidance. And that's fine because, quite frankly, the less we have to see of their faces, the better. But these maskers must not have a lot of confidence in their COVID shots 1 through 6. But liberals don't just want to love their precious masks for eternity. They want you to do the same, and they are really fired up you're not forced to anymore, hence why it was trending on Twitter yet again yesterday. I don't think it's a secret I'm not afraid of COVID now, and quite frankly, I haven't been since April of 2020. But at least by this point, most Americans have joined me in returning to the old normal where we breathe air unabridged, gather in large groups, travel and go to work in actual clothes in an actual and professional setting. Why? Because we want to, and most of us, quite frankly, have to. But not our members of Congress, though. They are still able to vote by proxy, meaning they can ramrod through idiotic legislation such as the falsely titled Inflation Reduction Act without being present on Capitol Hill. That's the case of Iowa Democrat Sidney Axne, who didn't vote in person last month for the Inflation Reduction Act, citing the ongoing public health emergency as her reason for voting by proxy. But oddly, that public health emergency didn't stop her from vacationing with her family in Europe. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down all the hot topics and, of course, give you my final thoughts.
In 10 minutes, Jim Leyritz joins us on his way to Yankee Stadium as we will see if Judge can hit 62. For the next 10 minutes, though, we are discussing Tua Tagovailoa, the concussion last night, concussion protocol or the lack thereof leading into Thursday Night Football as the Bengals win over the Dolphins and now have the long weekend going into Week 4. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. Guys, it was controversial at halftime last Sunday, with the Bills and the Dolphins. But it was not discussed, it was not tweeted about, it was not made a top-line number one issue from the media until they witnessed him freeze up with his hands last night on national TV, on Amazon, I should say. And because of that, all of these holier-than-thou reporters that are pointing to concussion protocol were silent going into game day. That's my biggest issue with all of this. They all want to act like they were on top of this. They did not once. Everyone's bitching about the halftime show with Amazon. Everybody, for the most part, the vast majority of them, were exactly the same way this entire week.
Well,
true or false?
True on the initial one for sure. And
no one dare question the protocol.
I agree with you on that. I'll say, as someone who complained about the halftime talk about it, it's different once when the initial thing happened.
There's new news.
Well, no, it's not that. It's not the injuries being the new news. There was an NFLPA investigation that was hours after that was announced.
And hours before the game, the NFL said
once the guy is hurt,
right?
You have to acknowledge that and say, look, you could say, hey, I'm going to get emotional right now. I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I played with him. But if you're hosting that halftime show, you have to give the preamble saying there's a current investigation by the NFLPA into what happened last week. The first time I heard any mention of that was right when the third quarter started. Kirk Herbstreit made a very quick passing comment about, hey, we all saw the hit last week off the ground.
It happened pregame and postgame.
We were concerned about that then, and now we hope he's okay now.
Andrew Whitworth said on Twitter, Lindsey Jones posted something now from The Ringer. She posted something like the halftime show, failed to mention. And Andrew Whitworth tweeted her back and said, we discussed it pregame.
And
as if like that. Well, that doesn't cover it at halftime. Nobody's watching pregame.
Did you watch postgame?
I watched postgame, and they did a much better job. But at halftime, that's where they needed the Michael Smith journalistic presence. They didn't have a journalistic presence.
But screw Michael Smith. It could be anybody on that set, Paul. It didn't need a journalistic aspect. They needed Richard Sherman, who has talked out about Thursday Night Football for years. Well, again, it doesn't take Michael Smith to say anything.
Well, that's who they bail them out postgame.
Well, but they spoke about it pregame. So all of these national media members who were complicit in all of this, they don't want to look at themselves in the mirror and say, we didn't ask the questions leading up to Thursday Night Football. We simply are discussing the halftime show, which is the first national broadcast after the injury, and we're going to ridicule them based on how they reacted to it, which is a mirror image of the national NFL media today 24 hours ago. And that's just the truth of it. No one's talking against the NFL.
I get what you're saying, but when he gets hurt again and you're discussing it, you have to bring up the first discussion.
You bring it up.
You have to bring up the fact that there's an investigation going on and recall what happened last week.
But you have all these people saying he should have been in concussion protocol last Sunday. Where was that? I saw the halftime reaction. Everyone's in shock that he came back out for the second half, and we were kind of smirking on Monday like, okay, they're pointing to a back injury. But having been on the sideline for 7 years and knowing the independent neurologists and how they treat this, the fact that the amount of media members that don't know the protocol itself, but they're pointing to the fact that there's a cover-up, is mind-boggling to me, as if it's the Dolphins' problem. If you're pointing to the Dolphins as complicit in this, that means the NFL covered Tua Tagovailoa's concussion up at halftime of the Bills-Dolphins game at noon Central Time kickoff in Week 3.
It's possible that both...
That's what you're saying.
The independent... Right, he's assessed by two people, the independent neurologist and the Dolphins doctor. It's possible that they both blew it on Sunday, which makes him more susceptible to a concussion on Thursday. This is me talking, my personal concern. And it seemed a little fishy at the time. I wasn't here to talk about it. I wouldn't have made a huge deal about it.
It was.
But it's hard to believe his back is the big issue there. Though he was lucid after the game. He was lucid during the week. He was lucid in his conversation Wednesday night with Fitzpatrick.
On Monday, I said, visually, perception-wise, it looks awful.
Horrible.
And perception-wise,
you said this on Sunday during a post-game show we were doing for the Titans, where you said, "Boy, I've never seen a back injury look like that, where his head hits the ground, he gets up stumbling."
And what a coincidence! It's on the play where he hits his head.
That was right after it happened.
And the way I describe the independent neurologist versus like the trainers you can go up on a sideline and talk to. If you try to speak to an independent neurologist, they look at you like the queen. How dare you look at me in the eyes? Like Ken Wisenhunt would do in the hallway with the team owner. How dare you look at me in the eyes walking down a hallway? Who are you to look at me? But that's how important that gig is for them and their credibility. And I said, there's no way. I trust the league on this because of how they've set up the independent neurologist. You can bash the protocol all you want to with this. The protocol is separate. They followed protocol. The NFL is saying that. That would mean the Dolphins are complicit in this. The independent neurologist is complicit in this. The trainers are complicit in this. The NFL is complicit in this.
I don't think that
And the idea that within the second quarter to the beginning of the third quarter, that they would come up with this ruse of a back injury, and everyone would stick to it, to come back out in the third quarter and start the second half, knowing that League of Denial is out there on PBS and Frontline, knowing that we have the movie from Will Smith and everything the league has done. Just consider week 3 of a noon kickoff with Tua, that they would risk all of that on that ruling. They followed protocol, and if they missed it, and they should go back and redo the protocol. But the fact that there are a lot of media members that are saying that the Dolphins and Tua are covering this up. You realize it goes all the way to Park Avenue in New York if you say that, based on the protocol that is followed with this.
Well, a couple things. I have no doubt Tua would lie. Players lie to get back in the game all the time. Concussion, whatever, ankle, anything.
Sure.
I'm fine, coach. I'm fine, trainer. Put me back in. So it doesn't stop it, Tua, and it's not supposed to. All these safeguards are built to avoid the player saying, I can go back in. Now, on the other stuff, it's possible that these guys missed the diagnosis, but there's a lot of evidence they didn't because he was lucid and all of these things. But when you're saying, I agree with you, go back. But can we play this clip? Colin, Judy Batista had Alan Sills, the NFL's chief medical officer, on today. And she said, in hindsight, should he have been taken off the field last Sunday? Here's what Alan Sills said to that.
We have to go through and review all of the data. We have to speak with everyone involved and understand exactly what they saw and what they heard and what data was available to them, and did they correctly apply the concussion protocol. That's what we always ask our personnel to do, is apply the protocol. And again, we can't make that decision. I'm saying me as a physician, I can't make the decision watching on television at home. I have to understand and know exactly what data was made of them. As soon as we finish that review, we'll release the results of that to everyone. We want to be as transparent and open about this as possible. We certainly want to learn, to improve, to get better, and we want to be the best in the world at diagnosing and managing these injuries. And so if we find that we fell short, or if we find that there are things that we need to change, we will certainly be upfront about doing that. We've done that before, and we will certainly do that again if that's what's indicated.
As soon as we finish this review, he says, this is glacier pace NFL thinking it can control time. When this happens on Sunday and the NFLPA says there needs to be a review, go and do this review before Thursday.
Well, the problem
in case you missed it.
But the problem is,
you missed it.
He's not in concussion protocol.
He's not.
The dude played in the third quarter. So what investigation is there from the NFL, from the independent neurologist, from the trainers, from Tua, from anyone with the Dolphins? What cover-up is there?
But he's allowing...
He didn't trot back out there for practice on Tuesday. He trotted back out there for the second half.
I understand.
And then they won the game.
But Sills is allowing for the possibility that maybe something went awry in this process. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to investigate it, chop. It's not Bountygate or one of these things where you take months to investigate it. Get down there, Talk to everybody involved in 3 days. You can do it. You have the manpower. You have the intelligence. Why are you talking like this is a 3-week or 3-month thing when it should be a 3-day thing?
But Paul,
doubt.
Get to the bottom of it.
He's saying this right now in a way that do we need to
Covers
do something?
CYA.
No, you're good. Finish your thought.
Sorry. He's saying that in a way that because the NFLPA wants some information on this, I believe, we'll get back into this, Sills believes the doctor, the independent doctor there.
That's fine.
He's not saying that
So
right
go
now because of
confirm
everything
it.
going around.
So go confirm it.
But it was confirmed at halftime.
But Paul, I will also say,
I mean,
if they confirm
that's what the independent
this,
doctor is saying.
If they said it on Wednesday, it would not have prevented them from any backlash from media covering the NFL on Thursday. That it said, oh, yeah, 3 days, and you had all the answers. Oh, sure, he's fine. Now we see him hurt
I'd be
again.
fine with a fast 3-day investigation. They've never investigated
they
anything
still-
fast.
You may have been fine. They still would have received a lot of criticism about it being done too quickly with their review. If they came back and said, no concussion, back injury, and then that happened, they would have piled on even more. Oh, yeah, the NFL came back in 3 days with their review and told us that. You know that would have been the criticism on Twitter.
And then it happens after that.
Yeah, everyone just goes and retweets Dr. Chris Nowinski when this happens, and no one else was saying anything about it before.
That was a pretty spooky tweet.
We head to our Zoom line on OutKick 360. Jim Leyritz joins us, and he's on his way to Yankee Stadium. He may be there now, for all I know.
Looks like a stadium.
Yeah, he's there. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Look at that.
What a beauty.
Always a thrill. Yankee
Hey,
Stadium.
I'm here, boys.
All rise, Jim. We go for 62 today. I sent you a text. We chatted earlier this week, and you said, hey, he's going to hit 61 soon. I'm going to join you guys. And here we go. He goes for 62 and to surpass Maris this evening against the Orioles. What do you think about the chances tonight?
I hope it is because I got to get on a plane tomorrow and go to TCU for my daughter's parents' weekend. So I'm going to miss Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully he does it tonight. But yeah, big night here. We got Garrett Cole, bobblehead Dow, and then of course Judge is shooting for 62. So pretty big night here at Yankee Stadium.
Hey, you got a big football game you're going to this weekend also with TCU and Oklahoma for
TCU,
Parents Weekend.
Oklahoma.
Good for you.
That's going to be a good one. Yep.
Jim Leyritz joins us on OutKick 360.
How many more strikes do you expect that he will see? He saw a load of pitches with all these full counts, but ultimately Toronto was content to put him on base a lot in games that meant things for them. These games don't mean so much for the Orioles, not that they're going to pipe one down the middle for him, but do you expect him to have better pitches to look at?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think number one, the fact that he's tied the record now, that pressure is over with. Number two, the team has already clinched the division. So, Aaron Judge, one of the greatest things about this kid is it's always team first, me second. And that's what people love him so much here in Yankee Stadium. And then, of course, the Orioles are pretty much out of it. With 5 games back, there's not much of a chance they're going to make the playoffs. So I think they'll pitch to him a little bit more. And like I said, I'm here tonight. I'm hoping that it happens tonight because I won't be here the next 2, and then they go on the road for 4 games in Texas.
You were there last week as we were waiting on this to happen, last week over the weekend. What was the wait like, every pitch, every at-bat, and knowing that we would see this eventually, but the wait was inevitable? And I know you wanted to see it at Yankee Stadium.
I was here 6 nights in a row, and I felt like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. I was like, here we go again. Here we go again. But you know what? Honestly, it was such a great thing. There's sometimes I sit out with the bleacher creatures. They're the ones that do the roll call. And I was sitting out with them the second to last night, and all of them are a bunch of fantasy camp guys. We all hang out together, and they all like, you know what? This feels like a playoff atmosphere. This stadium for those 6 nights was rocking the entire time. It was a pretty cool place to be.
Jim Leyritz joins us. Describe what this means for Judge, for the Yankees, for Major League Baseball. And we had the open to the show where everyone across the country is leading with Tua Tagovailoa today. And I said, there is no way back in the late 90s that if this happened in the NFL with Tua last night, that the lead story would be the quarterback instead of McGuire or Sosa. And the fact that we're not discussing the history of what could happen tonight is a bit unusual, peculiar. Is Major League Baseball embracing this nearly to the extent of what you've witnessed in the past? And if not, why not?
Well, you got to remember it's the New York Yankees, and we're not always on the top list of everybody, because we do have all these type of things happening here. It's an American League record, and I know Manfred has been trying to get rid of the league. He wants one big league, but I still love the American and National League. And the bottom line is, this is an American League record, something that has been held for 61 years, believe it or not. If he hits 62, it's in the 61st year since that record was broken, which is pretty ironic. And one of the things you always talk about Yankee history, and as far as me being a Yankee, is that these milestones, when you look at some different numbers and different things that happen, it winds up being pretty ironic or special, or however you want to look at it. And I think if Aaron Judge breaks that record this year, it's the American League record, it's the Yankee record, and to be along the names of Maris, Mantle, and names like that is pretty good. But here's what I'll tell you today. I was watching Jason Stark on MLB Central today, and he was talking about the MVP versus Ohtani versus Judge. And Judge's numbers, if you put them with home runs, RBIs, everything that he's leading the league in, almost by double digits. There's only 2 players in the history of the game that have done this, and their names are Babe Ruth and Ted Williams. Those are pretty good names to be a part of.
You just hit on something, Jim, that I think is very important right now. This is such a big Yankee milestone and Yankee moment. The Yankees are, no one would argue if you hate the Yankees, they're the biggest brand in all of baseball. I mean, that's the biggest Major League Baseball brand, but they're not Major League Baseball. So to Hutton's point, it doesn't feel as big of a baseball moment as a Yankees moment in a lot of ways, because the importance of Roger Maris in 1961, the importance, and go back and watch the HBO film that was beautifully done by Billy Crystal, the importance of passing Babe Ruth and how many people didn't want him to do that at the time. To me, that's what, as a fan of the history of all sports, that's what gets me going, is how important this is in Yankee lore.
Yeah, and it's just like if there's a Subway Series versus the Yankees versus the Mets, no one else in the world really gives 2 craps except for the people in New York. We had that in 2000. But the bottom line is, this is the season that he's having. And forget about the home runs. Every other statistic that he has is he's leading in double digits from any other player in the league. And it's just amazing that, we're not, and by the way, he's doing this as a new position center fielder, which he's had more home runs this year than any player in the history of the game that played center field. Those are pretty important things.
Jim, I know you've talked about Jim Leyritz, our guest. Go
by
ahead.
the way,
yes.
wait a minute. By the way, he turned down a $300 million contract and put his balls on the line and said, "Hey, here we go."
So betting on himself this year.
That's where I'm going with. I know in your circles, you guys have talked about what it's going to take to get a deal done. Like, that's got to be a conversation. We haven't got there yet here. We know what he turned down. What's the number like, but based on the year he's had and the fact he bet on himself?
Well, here's the big thing. If George Steinbrenner was alive, he would put the checkbook right in front of him and say, "Kid, write whatever you want. You're never leaving here." All right? Times are a little bit different, but here's what I think. I think there's going to be some bidding wars. I think Steve Cohen over on the other side of town is going to make a run at him. But the bottom line is, if the Yankees can offer him, let's just say an 8-year contract, because that's how much time they think he's got left, and then a 10-year service contract where he becomes the Yankee ambassador for the next 10 years, and they pay him $8 or $10 million a year and put another $100 million in his pocket. By him staying a Yankee, by him retiring as a Yankee, the money that he's going to make from age 40 to age 70 is going to be triple of what he would do anywhere else. And I think that's what the Yankees are going to try to do.
Are they closer now to you, Jim, to the early season team or to the August team? And what do you anticipate from them in the playoffs?
Well, the big thing is tonight. Tonight, DJ LeMahieu has been activated, and he is a key person in this lineup. If this guy, he's probably the best hitter in this lineup besides Judge, but he's probably the best hitter in this lineup. And if he's able to play, they activated him tonight. They want to see if these fractured bones in his feet are going to allow him to participate in the postseason. And if it does, I think the addition of Bader has been a big help. I think we're going to see this team that we saw in April, May, and June a lot more. And the one thing the Yankees have that they haven't had the past 3 or 4 years in the postseason is they have a pitching staff that can match up. And again, we want Garrett Cole to step up and show that he's that number one guy. But with Garrett Cole, with Nestor Torres, with Germán, and with if anybody else could step up here, then this team has an opportunity to go pretty far in the postseason.
Looks like a perfect day there at the stadium, by the way, Jim. We're very jealous of that. It's a perfect day here in Nashville as well, just for the record.
Nice and cool up in the Bronx right now?
Yeah, it's actually, you feel like it's October right now because tomorrow is October, but we feel like it's October baseball. It's about 55, 60 degrees. I got my sweatshirt on for the first time this year. And, once we bring baseball to Nashville,
there we go.
Right,
there we go.
We'll be in much better shape.
If they're playing in the middle of the month at home in the playoffs, how many people will be asking you for tickets?
Oh my God, it's crazy. They're like, "Hey, dude, can you get me tickets?" I said, "The only reason I'm going is because I'm working. I can't even get a ticket myself."
So I shouldn't bother since I'll be up there.
When you coming up?
12th through 6th, 13th through 16th.
Middle of October.
Oh, for the playoffs. Yeah, good luck.
I thought it'd be good for a laugh.
I tell you what, if we get to be better friends over the years,
yeah,
I'll make sure you get in here.
About 10 years.
Jim, thank you for the time, man. This has been awesome. Thank you for the quick check-in, and even better that you're not on the train. You're actually you're there at the stadium right now, which is awesome.
Enjoy it.
Yes, the atmosphere is just starting. Like I said, Garrett Cole bobblehead and Aaron Judge 62. It's going to be a heck of a night in the Bronx.
You're the man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for doing this, Jim. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
There's Jim Leyritz, one of Paul's favorites.
Cole got his choke home run out of the way the other day.
Paul, you weren't here, but I confess that I was silently rooting against Judge to get 61 for a while just to see the white knuckles on the Yankees fans if it continued. But now that he has 61, I want it to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I'm ready for him to hit 62 tonight.
Let him build a
I didn't
little
want him not
cushion,
to get it. I just wanted to keep it going because I said, when do you start to get nervous?
No, so Chad was
and
like,
I said, if he got through Toronto and you go back home, I feel like,
And my response was,
it's been 10 days at that point.
They're
10
playing
games.
Baltimore.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
The Orioles to save the day.
You want to get right, play Baltimore in September and October.
He's about to start hitting some
I didn't
bombs.
see an iota of it in him.
No,
all around him, yes, but in him,
he was still hitting the ball.
No, he's playing. He's playing ball,
and he didn't chase at all. I mean, all those pitches out of the zone, he chased 2 pitches that whole Toronto series.
Coming up, OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to follow along, and I'll let you know my money line upsets tonight across the NFL. That's straight ahead on OutKick 360.
Hey, this is David Hookstead, host of American Joyride. On our latest episode, I sat down with Army veteran and former operator Jesse Betcher to hear stories about his time in the service just like this. This is one of my favorite questions. I love asking, what's the funniest thing you ever saw while deployed?
Oh, man. There's some funny things. So people, I don't know, they think combat is all like, killing and blood and guts, whatever. Man, I laughed every day overseas. We got into a couple, I can't think of the funniest thing, but something that just comes into my mind. It was a couple little pranks. And I'm not a big prank kind of guy.
Me either.
And so if somebody pulls a prank on me, I will log it, but I usually won't retaliate, because I'll think about it. And then, but if it happens again, I'm going to get you back. If you pull a prank on me, I'm going to get you back like so much worse than you got me. And my kids know that. So there's no pranking that goes on in this house because my kids are well aware that they want, as an example. So we, over in Iraq one time, those old alarm clocks with 2 bells on top and the big dinger in the top?
Yeah.
So there was one of those in our safe house. I don't know where it came from, but it was an electric one. So you didn't hear the ticking noise. So it was silent but it still had the big dinger with the bells on top. Anyway, so we're, like I said, we do stuff at night. So in the daytime we sleep. Well, somebody had, we build these like bunks out of plywood and 2x4. So we had these wooden bunk beds, and somebody had taken some Velcro and stuck this thing up underneath my bed to go off at like 11 a.m., which is like right in the middle of my level 4 REM sleep, and this thing is super loud, and you wake up and it's completely dark in there because we blacken in all the windows to keep the sunlight out so we can sleep. So I wake up and this thing's going off and I can't find it because it's Velcroed up under the bed. And I didn't do anything. And then it happened again. It was hidden up kind of like in behind a bookshelf. Like a week later, it goes off again in the middle of my sleep cycle. And I don't know who's done it yet, but there's 4 of us in this room. So I know it's not one of those 3 guys. So there's only probably 8 of us total in the house. So I'm like, okay, I got to narrow it down to 4 guys. And then it goes off a 3rd time. This time they got real creative and they put it up in a ventilation duct where they actually had to unscrew the grate in front of the vent, put it inside there, and then screw it back on. So I couldn't even get to it to turn it off. But now I had it narrowed down to 2 guys. And the good thing is these 2 guys lived in a separate part of the house where they had their own room and their own shared bathroom. So what I did is I took a can of like heavy industrial strength pepper spray, and I just sprayed it on the toilet seat. And then I just sprayed it on and then just kind of wiped it off, leaving a film on there. And the next day, a guy named Kyle Lamb, I don't think I've told this story publicly before, but so Kyle Lamb comes into my room, and I've only seen Kyle mad twice in my life, and he was furious. And he comes in, and I'm sound asleep, and he comes in and starts screaming at me, poking his finger in my chest, and he's like, "What did you put on the toilet paper?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, man." He's like, "What did you put on?" And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I guess he went out in the room where the other guys were, and he dropped his pants, and his whole ass and back of his legs were bright red and just like burning because he didn't know what it was.
Right. Make sure to catch the full episode tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on OutKick.
OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to check out all the FanDuel offers, or excuse me, the DraftKings offers. OutKick.com/bet. Chad, we have been there. We went earlier today. We did a parlay through OutKick today, and that was through college. We're going to win some money right now on straight-up money line bets in the NFL. You ready?
Give me the bets, Hutton. Give them to me.
So you guys may disagree with me on this. We have not talked about this. I'm taking the Titans over the Colts straight up because this is not the NBA. This is the NFL where coaching matters. Mike Vrabel's a better coach than Frank Reich. And we have harped all offseason about, Vrabel's ranked higher than Frank Reich on the fireable rankings right now in Vegas. That's absurd. The better coach is on the visiting sideline this week. The Colts are not good. The Titans are not good. I'm looking at the coaching. Give me Vrabel over Reich straight up this week in Indianapolis. I'm taking the Cardinals on the road because they're playing the Panthers. If they're going to win, this is a game. They're not a good team. If they're going to win, this is the game to win, straight up on the road. And the Jets over the Steelers because the Steelers they're starting the wrong quarterback. They should go with the young guy based on what Trubisky's doing with all this dink and dunk and 5-yard average passes. And if they get yards after catch, it's a miracle. And Zach Wilson returns this weekend. Give me the Cardinals, the Titans, and the Jets. Underdog, money line wins coming up in the NFL.
$5 parlay plus 1069 will return you a handy $58.
Let's go.
I just did it.
Just banged it.
Yeah.
OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to play this parlay with us in the NFL. We're going to win this weekend.
Yeah, I'm playing. I love that.
Or bet them individually. You're still getting plus money. And, again, I like the Titans on the road because of Vrabel this week.
Only reason not to like the Titans is their injury stuff. It's just ridiculous. But they overcome injuries oftentimes.
Yeah,
but they're playing guys that we don't even know their names.
That's fair. They did that last year.
Yeah.
Like they're going
But
to
at some point they're going to
Vrabel's going to raise his hand and say, Coach of the Year over here because we did it with guys you don't know the names of.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to back that up this year.
I agree with you.
And it starts this
week.
week.
But Terrence Mitchell didn't get it done last week. They need the next guy to do better.
Caleb
than
Farley
Mitchell
didn't get it done last week.
Yeah, Terrence.
There's been too much talk about Terrence Mitchell playing. Terrence Mitchell was signed on Wednesday and played on Sunday because Caleb Farley sucks.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Problem.
It's not Terrence Mitchell's issue that he was signed and started.
No, I agree.
It's Caleb Farley's issue that the coaching staff and the general manager and the scouting staff didn't get it right.
But now Zach Cunningham's out. Now Amani Hooker's out. 2 frontline starters. And we don't even know who, like, there's not a logical, so-and-so will step in and so-and-so will step in. So it could be in another Terrence Mitchell-like situation.
These are two teams that I feel like both could make a lot of arguments as to why they don't feel good about things in this game.
This division's quite some.
I'm sure in Indy they're making all the same arguments of,
if the Titans
this
win
is
this
why
game,
we don't
Chad,
like this matchup.
Frank Reich could be coaching for his job on October 23rd here in Nashville.
Yep.
It's very possible.
Frank Reich's going to be hanging his hat on that Chiefs win for a good while. He needs to have staying power.
There were reports this morning that Mac Jones was on the practice field for the Patriots. He's not playing this weekend. He's been ruled out against the Packers. But he practiced, according to Mike Reese. Officially out.
Impressive that he would be able to do anything based on how he left the field at the end of that game.
Here is Mike McDaniel last night as Tua left on a stretcher right before halftime, and Mike McDaniel discussing concussion protocol within the Dolphins organization.
For me, as long as I'm coaching here, I'm not going to fudge that whole situation. If there's any sort of inclination that someone has a concussion, they go into the concussion protocol, and it's very strict.
Here's the thing about the concussion protocol and him. How do you say it? Smudging or fudging? That he can't. You can't fudge it. I mean, it's up to a doctor. Like you can say
he doesn't
the doctor.
put people in it.
The doctor screwed up. We're getting a lot of people in our YouTube chat.
It has nothing to do with
I'm
the
arguing with the guy now saying the Dolphins need to be on high alert with this because they should have set him out for precautionary reasons. And I'm thinking,
so
this is the NFL. If a paid neurologist by the league that is independent and not with my team tells me that he doesn't have a concussion and doesn't have symptoms, he's playing. Period. I lose my job if I don't play my starting quarterback.
Not just playing, he's going back in the game, which Tua did.
I mean, Mike McDaniel's not going to let the neurologist call offensive plays for the Dolphins, much like I'm not going to challenge him on his job.
Here's where I am. Is it a fair question if this neurologist might have messed up?
But that's not for Mike McDaniel.
How is that different from any other player who has been allowed back in based on being cleared in concussion protocol?
Agreed. Could he have messed up the test?
The idea, though, is not what you're proposing. The idea is they intentionally
I'm not saying that.
Screwed the system, and that the NFL would have been in on it based on the fact that the independent neurologist is appointed by the league, not the Dolphins. So if your idea is that the Dolphins and Tua are lying about a concussion, then what you're saying is that they have preempted the protocol based on the NFL's suggestion from the independent neurologist.
Well, I'm not saying any of that.
Which would have looked at Tua in the moment as they took him back for concussion protocol in the locker room.
I'm not saying any of that. Tua lies no matter what. Players
but if he
lie.
messed up,
but
then
the
he messed
neurologist conceivably messed up. That's all I want to know. Did he conceivably mess up? In which case, he's on the field and he's more prone to another concussion.
The answer is he's human. Of course, he could have messed up.
Right.
Any doctors mess up all the time.
That's my concern.
But is this a league
But
the
I don't know
league?
if that's
No, it's not a
knew that he
league
messed up?
conspiracy.
The idea is they knew he messed up and they've covered it up, which I'm not buying.
No, they
Headlines
don't
next on OutKick 360. If you're looking for a place to bet on a game today or a futures wager, head to OutKick's Odds Finder. OutKick.com/odds. It's where you'll find spreads, totals, and moneyline odds for every upcoming game. I love it because it's super easy to navigate. Bookmark OutKick.com/odds and make OutKick bets a part of your daily sports betting routine. For bets decided by season-long results, head to OutKick's Futures Finder. OutKick.com/futures. Just select your state, place your bet. It's honestly that simple. And similar to the Futures Finder, the Prop Bet Finder allows you to search by player, team, or game for any sport. Check out the OutKick.com/props, and from there, click the Odds tab. You'll go directly to the sports book to place your bet. Boost your game day experience with OutKick Bets. OutKick.com/bet. Get the edge with OutKick Bets. Coming up, Pro Football Doc will join us. Dr. David Chow will be on the show. We have PK's Plus Money props from DraftKings and OutKick.com/bet. And all the headlines plus NFL and college football previews. Chad's got his top 10 games ready to go. But, Chad, one of the headlines all week has been with Kim Mulkey and Brittany Griner and the no comment on the question about Griner's situation in Russia and whether or not her former head coach had something to say about it.
So, John McClain, great friend of the show, legend, member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, one of our OutKick 360 Hall of Famers. I went to him earlier this week. He was at an Astros game, and we were texting about something going on with the Astros. And I said, hey, we need to have someone on that can talk about this weird no comment from Kim Mulkey about Brittany Griner being imprisoned in Russia. And John McClain came back and said, David Smoak is your guy. He's the guy in Waco. He's host of 365 Sports. He is the guy for Baylor, the guy in Central Texas. That was John McClain's intro to me for David Smoak. David Smoak joins us right now to talk a little bit about this situation. David, appreciate you hopping on with us today.
Good to be here. Nice to have you guys on my screen. Looks good. Nice set. Appreciate your time.
It's always good to have optics. You know, that's
and
nice
the mic,
behind you.
The mic is crystal clear, David.
Yeah,
so
you are an audio
congrats.
guy, David. I can tell. You sound great.
No,
Voice is good. And the mic is
you
perfect.
guys, if you guys knew me, that I tell and ask everybody else I know for technological issues and problems or whatever, they would throw up over what you just said. But
hey,
you got them full.
But I do. I have you fooled.
Yeah.
David, you're doing us a solid too, because I know you've got a big high school broadcast tonight that's like 90 minutes away that you're going to be leaving and driving to right after this. So appreciate you hopping on with us. Let's get to the Kim Mulkey no comment from earlier this week. You know that program. You know Kim Mulkey. You know Brittany Griner. Can you just provide a little background with Griner's time there in Waco and maybe what could possibly be the issue with Kim Mulkey and Brittany Griner?
Well, I can try to go to that first. To me, the issue probably, and I think you could throw a dart and there would be a bullseye on what happened after Brittany and Baylor were knocked out of the playoffs of tournament in 2013. They were coming off that 40-0 season. And there was an article in ESPN, I think the magazine, about Brittany Griner and how she was treated as a gay woman on campus, and how she said, Kim Mulkey mentioned that, hey, I'm fine with it, but just don't go around, making it obvious wherever you go. I wasn't in those meetings with Kim and any players. Brittany Griner's not the only gay basketball player who's ever played for Kim Mulkey. I don't even look at it that way, but that's a safe bet.
Sure.
That article cut, and this is before Baylor had the really tough times under the scandal with Art Briles and all that went down in 15, 16, whatever, 17. But that cut the knees out of Baylor and Kim Mulkey. And there's a lot of people don't like her. They don't like her because she's very opinionated. She doesn't really care whether you like her opinion or not. It's like probably a lot of talk show hosts, like, right, with us. And doesn't mean we don't have feelings, but that article stung her. That article also was one, from what I've been told, and this is not just recently because I know what was coming on with you guys, is that Kate Fagan had been wanting to write that article for a long time. And Baylor was able to buffer that while Brittany was still eligible and playing and trying to win yet another national title. But there were some damning things that she said about Kim. I can't tell you whether she ever told any women to not be flirtatious or, outwardly about who they were or their lifestyle. And I don't, that's none of my business. But I can tell you this, unequivocally, Brittany Griner was a freaking rock star. She was the queen on the campus at Baylor University. And if she was the queen, Robert Griffin III was the king. He was there about the same amount of time until he won the Heisman at 11. Brittany Griner and Baylor went 40-0 in 2012, and then she was there for another year. She was treated like royalty. I wasn't always on the campus. I didn't follow her to class. I didn't follow her wherever she went. I just know that when she was inside, and sure, she's a superstar, and there's a lot of athletes that get treated that way on college campuses. I never, ever in the 4 years she was there, and I got to take that back. I was there the 3 years. I wasn't here her freshman year. Never heard anybody on campus, student, young, old, anybody's lifestyle, ever say anything negative about Brittany. I had one person who I know who is an Oklahoma fan send me a text about Brittany and her sexuality and maybe how she looked. And I ripped his lips off with a text message back to him because of what he said to me, because it was uncalled for.
Were you surprised when Kim Mulkey left Baylor for LSU?
But yeah, that's a long story, and I wish you guys had more time, but you could see that simmering. Kim was the queen on campus too. Don't forget it. And everyone knew that because she was someone that won really before Baylor won in any other big sports. They had done well in baseball. They had won a national title like in tennis or whatever, but she took a school that it was awful in football, awful in basketball, had been through the scandals, remember, during the Dave Bliss era. And she gave Baylor fans hope and, hey, we can win here. And she did, not just once. She won quickly, and then she won again with Brittany, and then she won again, what was it, like I think 2019, with a completely different team. She was it. I mean, kiss the ring type of thing. I'm not saying she ever asked you to, but I don't think she would have minded you had you done that. I had a great relationship with her. We talked about a lot of things, but near the end, she did a show on a station in, I guess, Baton Rouge that covered LSU and outwardly, flirtatiously in a way, answered questions, although, oh, come on, but you never know, when asked about from one of the hosts about the possibility LSU's job was opening up because their coach was moving on into the WNBA. It created a firestorm pretty quickly. I remember reaching out to a couple of people on Baylor, and I said, hey, what is this? It doesn't mean she hadn't been on other shows before, but it hit to the top pretty quickly. And over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, it spread. I mean, the negativity, the friction, it ended quickly. And I'm not so sure, even though Mack Rhoades told me when we interviewed him, would you have allowed her to come back had she decided to change her mind? And he said yes. Mack, in all the years he's been at Baylor since I started talking to him one-on-one with our show with Paul and Craig as well, has never, ever, has he ever said something to us on the air that wasn't true. If he can't answer it, he'll even say he can't answer it, but he's never dodged a question. So I still wonder about that. But that relationship got toxic over a lot of things. Am I surprised she left under the circumstances? No. Scott Drew won a championship in men's basketball. People can say whatever they want. That was a big deal. The arena that they're building, the pavilion, which is across 35 near McLean Stadium on the other side. Kim told me point blank on the Wednesday before she left to take the job at LSU. She said this to me. I've never talked to her since that conversation either. She would not return any calls I had or text messages the next 2 or 3 days. I knew where that was going. She would never coach a team, a college basketball team, with the arena not on campus. And if you guys have ever been down 35, Waco's split by I-35. There's parts of it that are just on the opposite side of 35, a big, huge administration building. It was more semantics. She didn't want that. There was an argument about that. And I think it was pretty much deeper than a lot of people thought. She got paid everything she wanted. She had the best budget in all of women's college basketball. But you know what? People like attention. And then there's certain things that happen, and maybe you're no longer it. Not that people she was beloved in Waco and at Baylor. But there were a lot of people that didn't like her style. But that's also what happens to a lot of people that are successful along the way.
David Smoak, our guest, sports radio host in Waco. We're discussing the Kim Mulkey and Brittany Griner no comment from earlier this week. David, had Kim Mulkey said something positive or negative in a response to that question, how surprised would you have been in the moment?
Well, I don't know exactly when this was. First of all, I saw it because it came to us pretty quickly. I was like, the first thing I thought about, and again, I know her, but I haven't spoken to her since she left for LSU. Mm-hmm. I was like, Kim, why? Yeah, I know that article cut your knees out. I know that probably maybe ripped your heart out. And a lot of people go, oh, who cares about Kim? What about Brittany? Well, that's another story. And I know that hurt. And I imagine if any of us four had ever had something on a front page of any national magazine written about us, and you didn't know, it hurts. It would hurt. And, but again, that's part of the role when you're a big time coach, no matter if women's basketball is at the same level. We know it's not as college football and men's basketball, but it surprised me because in my opinion, and again, I haven't talked to her, not going to, just say, we wish her well. Now, I think she really does. I don't know when, and I was just trying to text a guy that I know that covers LSU named Mike Scarborough. I don't know when, but there was an interview during the spring or summer when somebody had Kim on the radio, a show, and she said, she actually answered the question a little bit better. Not better. She asked more in depth, and she said, I'm praying for Brittany. You haven't heard that, have you?
No.
Have not. No.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
No one's heard that. I was trying to text Mike to find out exactly when that is. We played it on our show. No one cares about that. They care about Monday. Now, could she have handled it better? Yes. Could she have shown empathy, heart? Sure. Even, and I talked to two former players today. When you got in her doghouse, when she got her heels dug into the ground, they were there to bring blood. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic about it. She held a grudge. I've held my grudges. I think everybody has. Some people blow it off as you get older. You kind of go, okay. But when she had something she didn't like, and she didn't like you or whoever, it didn't end. There was no end game. So I was surprised because I don't know why you just don't answer that question. Because could it hurt them in recruiting? I don't know. Her staff's incredible. They have the number 1 ranked player for 2023. I just don't know why I just wish her well, hope she gets back soon. And guess what? You're not talking to me on the show today.
Yeah, and she could put that out in a release through LSU or on social media, but she is not. So I think that's raised a lot of eyebrows. David Smoak, our guest on OutKick 360.
I know, listen, I'm sorry because I'm a talk show host, but I want to. In 2013, I did some checking on this, went back and double checked. Brittany left after the 2013 season. They were shocked by Louisville. The article came out. It was damning. We all know that. And I didn't walk in Brittany's shoes. I interviewed her many times. I enjoyed her personality. My daughter, couldn't wait to come down and watch a game in Waco one time and get to meet her. That's the kind of person she was, no matter what she was, her lifestyle, whatever. But after 2013 season suddenly ended on a shocking upset, the article comes out soon after that year, and I could never pinpoint the time, whether it was summer, I think it was in the fall, like right now, basketball teams are working out again. They get 30 practices. Brittany came back on campus. First time since the loss, since she left, since the article. She walked in, I was told, at a practice, came to near where Coach Mulkey was coaching, or came to a practice. It was kind of awkward. Kim didn't tell me this, asked her to come back, and she would see her after practice later on that day. They did meet. I know they met. I know for a fact they met. I also know for a fact that Brittany said to her, Coach, I'm sorry, you treated me very good. What Kim asked her to do in that meeting, Brittany, listen, what's happened has happened. I need you to publicly apologize. Not trying to force her, not telling her and if or buts. Could you publicly apologize or publicly mention that Kim, the damage is done? And I was told I might even get a chance to interview her within the next 2 or 3 days. That never happened. There was a home game coming up soon. She never came back. She never did publicly apologize. Maybe she didn't feel like she should. Maybe in that moment in front of Kim, she felt intimidated and just wanted to say she was sorry. And I think Brittany probably was. Brittany's more of a follower than she is like someone who's a leader. And so she can sway. Incredible once-in-a-lifetime basketball player. But that meeting happened. I double-checked on that again today. I wanted to make sure I had that correct, not because I was coming on with you, because I double-checked actually this week because we mentioned it as well on our show. You hear about that? Anyone mention that? No. But that happened. And I would not be surprised I would be stunned if it did not happen. It did. Just imagine, you talk about what Kim could have said Monday. And we all want Brittany. Wish her the best of luck. Now, not everybody does. We know this is a polarizing issue, but I do. I have nothing against her. She didn't do anything to me, even though I didn't agree with some of the things she has done. But I do know for a fact that Brittany could have done that, just like Kim could have said something on Monday.
David, we got to ask you one about football before we let you go, because I look at Baylor as the ultimate rags to riches success story in all major sports. Men's basketball national champions, football relevant year in and year out. You can point to history across college football especially and say, well, these teams have won a national title, so they can win it again, and that normally is the case. But there's not a lot of Baylors out there that were awful for years and years and then suddenly become a powerhouse that's relevant year in, year out, top 25 team. They're doing that now. What do you think about the matchup with Oklahoma State? And also just in general, Dave Aranda, the job he's done. I know there's a lot of reports about Nebraska possibly going all in on Dave Aranda and giving him whatever he wants to go to Lincoln. How is he? You talked about Brittany Griner and Kim Mulkey being beloved in Waco. Is it the same for Dave Aranda right now?
Well, yeah, no, he is. He's the Jedi or whatever you want to call him. He's as unique a human being as I've ever met in my life, and I'm 63 years old. And I get a chance to interview him in his office once every other week. And I tell you what, I can go into any pretty much head coach's office, and I think I can conduct an interview, and I, refresh and study up a little bit with him. Man, I gotta it's a final because he's so unique and so deep. And yet he's got a little sense of humor in him, that maybe we're starting to see, which we couldn't see during the COVID year. Plus, they were terrible at 2-7. He is a genuine human being, and yet he also is cold-blooded because at the end of the first year, he was unafraid to fire coaches because he knew that they wanted to get to the next level. They had to make some changes, and we saw what they did last year. As far as Oklahoma State, it is exactly 365 days to the year when they played last year in Stillwater, and of course, then they played in Arlington. Neither team is the same. Baylor probably has more of the same personalities that they had last year than Oklahoma State. The deal is Spencer Sanders has struggled turning it over a lot of times, but Baylor has picked him off 10 times in his career. Now, I'm not saying he throws one pick tomorrow, but I think this is going to be an electric game. And to me, if Oklahoma State wins a road game, if Baylor wins, they've now won at Iowa State and against Oklahoma State. That sets them up for possibly being very much involved again when we get to the holidays at the end of November.
David, on the way out, how many people will be at the high school game you're calling tonight?
Oh, this one won't be really great. It's in Killeen, Fort Hood, the great Fort Hood Army Post. I've done games though where there's been 15 to 20,000.
Wow.
Tonight. It's an
Tonight's
hour
like
and
13.
a half. Yeah, I'd say tonight you'll probably have 4,000 or 5,000.
Okay.
I would think maybe. But no, there's usually like the state championship weekend, they'll have 50, 60,000 people over like an 8 to 10 hour period of time. It's
we
it's
marvel.
a different deal.
We marvel at the stadium.
I know you got to go. J.J. Watt flew into, when he was drafted by the Texans, flew into Houston. As he's on his way into Houston, we interviewed him that day. He said, man, when I flew into Houston, I'm in the plane, I see all these stadiums, and I didn't know what colleges they were. They're high school stadiums. The commitment is truly amazing.
We're in Nashville, David, and Vanderbilt would love to have 15, 20,000 in some games. So, and they're in the SEC.
Or the stadium, not even just the stadium.
But I always say Baylor's kind of my example for a Vanderbilt or another program that you can be bad for 60 years, and then you can make the right hire, start getting going, getting a little buzz going in recruiting, and you can be relevant.
They have rebuilt this thing 4 times if you go back to the days of Grant Tapp in the 70s. But they have rebuilt this thing. Bryles left, Rule 1. He wasn't here very long, goes to the NFL. Guess what? Aranda comes in, he won. So 3 different coaches since 2008 have rebuilt them to be inside the top 10.
David Smoak has been our guest. Thank you for the time today. We really appreciate it. And
anytime, guys.
Thank you. You can send McLean your bill.
I'm going to text him right now.
There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
There's David Smoak out of Waco, 365 Sports, talk show host there. Coming up, Dr. David Chow joins us, Pro Football Doc. We're going to dive back into the Tua Tagovailoa and the concussion protocol, lack thereof a week ago, and then what we're seeing last night right before halftime. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You remember when Myles Garrett took the helmet off and swung it at Mason Rudolph? What did he say? Well, Mason Rudolph said racist things to me. Turned out to be crap. Happened the other day, turned out to be crap. All right? Happened about a month ago, turned out to be crap. He said, that's the new go-to. When you act like an idiot on a football field, you then go to, he said racist things to me. It's no different than that little Duke volleyball player lying about racist stuff at BYU. Nobody's ever going to cover the lie. All we're going to do is paint a guy with a brush that he says racist things because some idiot acts like an idiot. Next thing you know, he's got to cover himself. I like Chris Jones and I like Matt Ryan. I'm going to tell you why. Colts game, Chris Jones sacks Matt Ryan. It's going to be 4th down and 1,000,000. And the Colts haven't moved the ball from me to that camera in front of me. Chris Jones, for whatever the reason, pushes down on Matt Ryan. No call. They're in a scrum. It's all right.
Well, I've seen enough of Tua to know that he's the future of this franchise. He made 2 throws last week that very few people can make, and and he's done that all season long, and he's done it really from the beginning. I think now he's healthy. He's around a coaching staff that has confidence in him and has provided confidence for him. I think he needed a couple of games like he had, the 6 touchdown game 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, where he led a furious second-half comeback.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy. Don't forget to follow me on social media at Tomi Lahren. And in case you missed my last show, here's what you missed. Hashtag Bring Back Masks was trending on Twitter this week because, as we know, liberals love masks. They always have and they always will. They will wear masks on planes, on trains, in automobiles alone, on playgrounds, on nature hikes, in the shower. You name it, they will wear 1 mask or even 2 in that place, regardless of other humans or breathing organisms are present or not. Hell, they love their freaking masks, even when the science tells us they are next to useless. And even when the CDC, which it has dropped much of its masking guidance. And that's fine because, quite frankly, the less we have to see of their faces, the better. But these maskers must not have a lot of confidence in their COVID shots 1 through 6. But liberals don't just want to love their precious masks for eternity. They want you to do the same, and they are really fired up you're not forced to anymore, hence why it was trending on Twitter yet again yesterday. I don't think it's a secret I'm not afraid of COVID now, and quite frankly, I haven't been since April of 2020. But at least by this point, most Americans have joined me in returning to the old normal where we breathe air unabridged, gather in large groups, travel and go to work in actual clothes in an actual and professional setting. Why? Because we want to, and most of us, quite frankly, have to. But not our members of Congress, though. They are still able to vote by proxy, meaning they can ramrod through idiotic legislation, such as the falsely titled Inflation Reduction Act, without being present on Capitol Hill. That's the case of Iowa Democrat Sidney Axne, who didn't vote in person last month for the Inflation Reduction Act, citing the ongoing public health emergency as her reason for voting by proxy. But oddly, that public health emergency didn't stop her from vacationing with her family in Europe. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down all the hot topics and, of course, give you my final thoughts.
So we joke with Bobby Carpenter all the time about his devotion to the show. You know, he's joined us on the lake and from Ohio State.
Hung over after Kenny Chesney.
Everywhere in between. OutKick 360 rolls on. Dr. David Chow is joining us between surgeries today. Very precise schedule, and for that, we're very grateful. Dr. Chow, great to have you on Pro Football Doc on Twitter. How are you?
I'm good. And yes, thankfully, I'm done with surgery. I'm in the office and changed out of scrubs, and thank you.
So my thinking here, Doc, is if they're truly doing an investigation here at the behest of the NFLPA, and they want to get to the bottom of it, if they missed a concussion on Sunday, you got to expedite that whole thing and get to the bottom of it before Thursday. And not treat it like a bounty gate or whatever and say, well, we'll get back to you in 3 weeks when we do all of our research and we'll be very transparent about it. I'm wondering what you think about that idea.
Well, there's no question. I mean, if you're doing a formal investigation, the process is the PA names a doctor, the NFL names a doctor, those two guys name a third doctor, they travel down to Miami, they arrange interviews. That is months, you're right. But the NFL does do informal investigations routinely 5-8 times a week with phone calls to team doctors, independent neuros, and what have you. Look, what I've been saying for a while, since quite honestly, loudly since last year, when Devontae Adams took that big hit on the national TV game, Jimmy Ward, and was down for 2 minutes, entered the medical tent for 90 seconds, missed one play because of the commercial, came back into the game, and it was said to be a wind. And the wind knocked out of him, not head, even though TV showed there was a head blow. Maybe there indeed was no concussion. Since then, I've been saying if the NFL needs to be more transparent. I wonder if you guys think about this. Paul, you know this. You guys know this. After a game, there's a pool reporter that gets to talk to the head referee and ask questions. Why did you call holding? Why was that challenge overturned? Why is that an incompletion? Why is that a touchdown or not? Isn't this more intriguing and for transparency? Why can't you let the Red Hat UNC talk to one pool reporter? They're not getting grilled. It's just simple questions. And if they're not comfortable doing that, how about Dr. Sills, who is a great guy, does a great job, is near your area there.
Yes.
Let him get the info and let that guy talk to a pool reporter and clear the air. Maybe we wouldn't be sitting here wondering as much, relying on the team, relying on leaked reports, etc., and clear things up for us. That's what I would say would make more sense.
I don't think there's a vast conspiracy here. I'm not taking Tua's word for it on Sunday. Is it possible that the independent neurologist misdiagnosed? That seems to me to be at the root of the question from Sunday. Yeah?
Well, it's possible. Look, it's possible that Tom Brady throws 3 picks in a game, right? It's happened before, but he's still Tom Brady. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. But, you know, before we start using words like misdiagnosis, we should be in the room and review the facts of what's there and what wasn't there. And I'm all for the investigation. If there's nothing to hide, which there shouldn't be, you should be able to investigate and find the truth.
So Dr. David Chow, our guest, we came in on Monday, and I said I was on the sidelines for 7 years with the Titans. I've seen the independent neurologists. They're not happy people, quite frankly. You try to have a conversation with them, they want nothing to do with me, and I don't blame them. But the team physician, I know by name. They get a call. They can message to a coach. They can get a message to a coach. Guy comes out of the lineup. They'll take him in the tent. The protocol itself can be examined. I'm not vouching for the protocol, but there are many media members who are saying that the protocol was intentionally trumped here. Yeah, it was jumped over. There was everyone's in on this, and I'm thinking, you realize, if you're blaming the Dolphins or Tua, you're blaming the league because an independent neurologist would have examined him, not just during the week, but on game day where he was clear to come back. Am I right in thinking, and this was my perception on the sideline, unless an independent neurologist clears you, you're not allowed to go back into a game on game day. Am I right on that?
Well, that technically has changed. The independent guy had to clear you to return to the same game. The independent person is there and is consulting with the team physician, but the league did cede the final call to the team physician. But to follow up on that, I do not know of a single team physician, and I, as a team physician, would never put a guy back in the game if it wasn't unanimous. I mean, that's really swimming upstream and asking for it if you're not unanimous on what it is. We'll find out what really happened there in Miami. I don't know, but technically, you don't have to have that person. Now, technically, Tua has to now get cleared by, once he's in the concussion protocol, get cleared by a UNC independent person to return to full play.
Yes.
But in game, they ceded that back to the head team physician, basically saying, you better be darn sure if you're going against the independent neuro.
And I think a lot of people are saying that they're staging all of this last week, not last night, based on the tweet from the team. Chad, Paul, and I, with most media relations coordinators, are scared to even mention a body part with an injury nowadays across the league. The Dolphins tweeted out in real time that Tua was questionable to return with a head injury against the Bills. And it turns out they're pointing to a back injury through Ian Rappaport at halftime. That to me, perception-wise, that's why you raise an eyebrow, is the fact that the team account tweeted that, and now we lead into Thursday Night Football, where he's not even in concussion protocol this week, and we see what happened last night. What did you think when you saw the injury initially last Sunday, where he stumbles and needs help to get off the field?
I tweeted in real time, Tua is not coming back into the game. That's
like,
a visual
like
sign.
Like everyone, yes.
Like everybody, okay? But you don't judge concussions by video. But I tweeted in real time, he can't because there's a neurological sign. The only way he can is not by passing the concussion protocol and all the tests. That can't trump the visual sign. You have to explain the visual sign away for something else. And apparently they did. In defense of the Dolphins, look, whether you have a concussion or not, your questionable return with a head injury, because they're determining if you have one. And that may spew the public relations and media perception even worse. I get that part of it, but they're just being honest there, and they're just getting caught in a trap there. But the visual is the thing that's difficult, right, for us who aren't in the room. I think if you polled 100 people, 99 of them would say that's a concussion. But maybe if you knew more information, you might. I'm not saying you would change your mind, which is my call for transparency. Maybe there's something we're missing that the UNC, the guy on the sideline, the red hat, could tell the world immediately after the game. And no offense to Ian Rappaport. I chat with him all the time. He's a good guy. He's accurate in his reporting. But why filter it through a reporter and have it be leaks and information? Just come out and say it if there's nothing to hide. And it shouldn't be Mike McDonald saying it. I mean, he's not directly involved in that decision-making process.
Well, even Rappaport, Chad, I mentioned on Monday, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek on his tweet. He made it very apparent, like, hey, they're telling us, hint, hint, it's a back issue that happened in the first quarter. He's back out there, by the way, starting the third quarter. So I don't blame him. He's just the messenger on that. The initial messenger, though, Chad, was the Dolphins when they tweeted out he had a head injury.
Yeah, and there's also, a lot of talk about this so quickly diagnosed with concussion after the game. Getting released to leave last night, this has been another point of contention. With what we saw on the field, how on earth is he released from a hospital and flying back with the team? Is that uncommon, though, Doctor?
No, that's actually normal. And in real time, despite the posturing, I said I didn't believe it was a neck. It's not a Ryan Shazier. He's not going to be paralyzed. Thankfully, that's true. I expected him to be released from the hospital. I didn't think I'm not saying he shouldn't have been sent to the hospital. I'm saying I expected him to be released from the hospital. And here's the thing. He all the time people are released from the hospital after concussion. Here, yes, he's flying on a plane, on a private charter with doctors and athletic trainers, at least 3 doctors and at least 4 athletic trainers with him / next to him and monitoring him. And if there was a problem in the plane, you don't think they would set it down somewhere? I mean, this is not flying middle seat on Southwest alone with a searing headache and a problem.
So explain the posturing that you talked about that everyone saw watching the game last night that I think freaked people out more than anything else if they've never seen that. The
fencing response.
Yeah, where he went into that posture with his fingers in his hands. Medically explain that to us.
Look like UFC.
And does that indicate something about the severity of the injury?
Not necessarily the severity, but certainly the type and the way, abnormal electrical signal, you could call it. It's happened before. And we've seen it before in football, but this is now a quarterback on a national TV game. The last time I remember doing it, what was it, guys? Donald Parham, the Chargers, national TV in the end zone, right?
Yes.
The spine board and the whole deal. And he was posturing and fencing and the whole deal.
Tom Savage was another quarterback also with the Texans. I remember going and seeing a YouTube clip. Someone posted same exact thing that got knocked out, and he was doing
and that's a good example. I saw that Tom Savage one in real time and said, he's out of the game. The Texans, you remember this, put him back in the game. And social media was going crazy. And I was like, and they were wanting heads to roll. And I was like, well, they have some explaining to do because it doesn't make sense to me, right? And the Houston Texans have good caring doctors. I know all the lead physicians. But I was like, how can you explain that? Well, here's how that was explained. We saw that on TV. That was a play, if you remember correctly, it was on the end zone.
Yep.
And they were on ground level at the 50 or 30-yard line. They went out and checked on him. And as soon as they got out there, he was not fencing, but it was on TV. When they went to look at the replay didn't work that day. They didn't have that to go off of. So they checked him. They put him back into the game. And after the next series, they checked him again and said, no, you probably should come out. So there are explanations for why doctors do things sometimes. I'm not trying to make excuses.
Sure.
I just want to hear their side.
And I'm not making excuses for the league or the protocol. I have only said since Monday, I trust the league when they say they follow protocol. I'm not vouching for the protocol here. Is the protocol easy to fake if you're a player? Andrew Whitworth was on last night, postgame, saying that he easily passed that test in the blue tent. Like, is this something that is known across the league? It's the same regimen every single week?
It's not the exact same regimen. And look, could you fake your way through sometimes? Sometimes you just can't. There are some objective signs. There's some balance signs. There's some memory tests and other things. But look, it's happened before. Earlier this week, I talked to Rich Gannon, and he goes, he raised his hand as someone who, worked his way through sometimes. Look, we know the medical timeout rule, the Julian Edelman rule from Super Bowl 49, where he went down, was slow to get up, but then ran it off, and it was a hurry up. There was no medical timeout. They finished the series. They got a touchdown. He was checked on the sideline return. And in those couple of minutes, maybe he cleared and passed. Like, I'm not throwing rocks at anyone. That was the Super Bowl and whatever.
Right.
And yes, doctors have to protect players from themselves. But bottom line is, yes. And look, there are stories out there of people who fake their baseline concussion test so that when they are concussed, they only have to return to the baseline to play again. And that's known. So you do what you can to try and control that. But, it's life.
Paul, I said last night to someone I was talking with, it's like people reacted as if he's going in at halftime last Sunday and had some scan done, and they're reading that and faking it. But that's not the case last Sunday.
No, look, I mean, it's disturbing visual to see, and everybody wants the guy protected. Give us what you think, Dr. Chow, are the potential avenues things go from here.
Well, look, if there is malfeasance from Sunday in terms of something choreographed, purposeful, or one eye open, one eye shut, wink, nod, heads should roll, period, end of discussion, if that's what is found out. And whoever's involved, I would be the first one in line to say that, if that were the case. But you know what? What's going to work out? I hope. I'm waiting to hear from the independent neuro and what really happened. Look, Tua can plead all he wants. I'm fine. It was my back. Unless his explanation fits the medical picture, you cannot believe him. But maybe the explanation did fit the medical picture. We don't know. Look, Donald Parham, I'm not aware of Donald Parham having a concussion 4 or 5 days earlier, then resulting in that posturing. So it can happen without a first concussion. Of course, we're more worried if there was a recent or nearby concussion, and that's what everyone is worrying about. But going back to what I said in the beginning, if we had transparency on Sunday, we wouldn't be here day after Thursday on Friday.
Yeah.
How long do you imagine recovery is for him now from what he suffered last night?
Concussions are like snowflakes. No two are the same. You can't judge. It can accelerate quickly. It can decelerate. He reportedly has a headache. If it were a 7-day cycle, he would be out for sure next week. It's really a 10-day cycle. I'm sure the Dolphins and the UNC will be extra conservative. If his symptoms last, he needs at least 7 days of 0 symptoms. Apparently, as of today, he still has a headache. It's hard to say. If they determine he had a concussion on Sunday, and this is the second one, he will be out at least a month, right? And a third one will be a season. If they determine this is his first concussion, then you just follow the symptoms and how it tracks. Look, it's amazing things. We're hearing today that Dane Jackson from Buffalo has a chance to play today. He was, 10, 11 days from that ambulance ride,
yes.
Et cetera. So we'll see what happens. We'll let the medicine sort out where it is. Let's just make sure he returns to normal first and is safe. And look, I'm grateful that his mom and dad were with him. I've had the fortune of meeting his mom and dad once at a media thing one time, and nice people, and very loving and caring. I'm sure they're not trying to let anything happen to their son, as they should be, and as the Dolphins should be, right?
Absolutely. And last thing, and thank you for the time today. We brought this up earlier in the week. You may or may not know this. Are the independent neurologists assigned to different games every week, or is it the same doctor at the home stadium based on if the home stadium is hosting the NFL that weekend?
First of all, there are 3 of them at every game, 1 on each team sideline and 1 upstairs in the box helping the ATC spotter. Now, are they the same 3 people every time? They try and keep a core together for continuity.
Like refs.
But, someone's got a wedding, someone's got a this, who knows, someone may be sick, someone has an emergency surgery. There's a small pool, right, of people. And that do it, and they're all independent from the team, and they're jointly appointed by the NFL and the NFLPA, so they answer to both bodies.
I'm glad you clarified that, because if you listen to our show on a regular basis, you would know, I don't believe half the stuff that the NFL tries to put out there, right? Like, there are always motives. They have no incentive of faking some concussion test with Tua Tagovailoa.
I'm having a hard time finding the motive.
But the reaction to this is there has been some assessment that they circumvented last week that led to last night's injury, and I just don't buy it based on the protocol. I'm not saying you have to agree with the protocol that's in place. I don't see the media reacting to the independent nature of this the way that the NFL and the NFLPA has agreed to set this up week to week.
No, I agree, but partly, back again, not to keep going backwards, but if there was more transparency, there might be less people clamoring about what's going on. And I think it only helps. Look, all the time teams talk about players' injuries, right? So it's not a HIPAA thing. If it were, fine. Let Tua, whoever the subject is, let the league say, we would come talk to you about this to a pool reporter, but the player refused.
It's a very interesting point, because the NFL, Tua will not be made available to the media until he clears concussion protocol. But in the UFC, if you get knocked out, Conor McGregor can do an interview with Joe Rogan in the middle of the ring seconds later. So that's an interesting point, because I think we need to hear from all parties here, and there's a lot of people that are just making suggestions and guessing.
But that adds to the mystery, not being able to talk to Tua.
I agree.
If Tua comes out and said, "Oh man, I fought to go back in the game. It was my back. This is why it was my back, and I passed all the concussion tests. There were no shenanigans here. I couldn't look at my mom and dad if I had faked something, and my health is important to me." And he could speak. Some of this might get quelled, but he can't. So it adds to the storm.
Dr. David Chow has been our guest, pro football doc, getting it done.
Thank you so much.
In surgery and out with us on OutKick 360. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There he is, Dr. David Chow.
How nervous are you if, like he said, it's someone was on vacation and you're the neurologist that's never there, and this was the 1 week you were there and you're the one who cleared?
But you're basing it off the protocol that's in place. So if you're clearing them based on whether or not you think the guy's concussed.
But the human reaction is, did I miss something? When all this is going on, when you go back and see the footage and everything else?
But they're so,
precise.
They
and
err
it's
on the side of
orchestrated.
caution, and people don't believe that. But when seeing this, like there are guys who you don't see on camera that are like head to head with someone, and then all of a sudden there's a commotion behind me on the sideline, and it's the independent neurologist that gets a phone call, and it says we need 78 or whoever over here immediately.
Yeah,
and
I
so
mean,
they'll
look,
substitute.
the guy still could have made a mistake, even following the protocol,
No
because
doubt.
he's human.
But that doesn't mean
It
that
could
there's
happen.
some
There's
conspiracy.
no spot for motive. This is not the
Right.
individual team doctor from Varsity Blues,
Right.
with the coach telling the doctor, "Hey,
This
make him
is-
understand and give him a shot." That's no longer in play.
I
with
think
this.
that conversation's crazy, the conspiracy thing. I never thought of that for a second. My thought was, did they miss it?
But
That's
if-
the thought I had
if
from the
they
beginning.
missed it,
And I think
that's-
it's conceivable they missed it based
No
on
doubt.
the wobble.
Yeah.
And the trouble getting
No,
up.
I
How
agree.
convenient is it that you have a back injury
But-
that coincides with you banging your head on the turf?
But the reaction though was not, oh, did they miss it on Monday? The reaction was, oh, they're saying back injury. We're not doctors, and they have a protocol in place which they followed, so it must be a back. And now, whenever he's concussed on Thursday Night Football, all of a sudden is cover up.
Well-
they said it was a back. It was a concussion. We knew it at the time, and this cannot be trusted.
I haven't read-
I don't see how you make that leap.
I haven't read as widely as you have to see the
It's just on your-
cover-up stuff.
on your Twitter timeline.
But I think I understand a little bit because you're more prone to the second concussion if you had the first. So as soon as he suffers the second concussion,
I don't disagree
I could
with that
see
at
people
all. I
going
agree.
back to the first concussion and going, whoa,
But
this
there was
deserves
no-
re-examination now.
But there was no first concussion based on the fact he was never in concussion
Right, go
protocol.
back to the first play.
But my,
and say,
my
this deserves
point
re-examination.
Point being, like that, there is all of a sudden this reaction of, oh, this is Stephen Ross's team who tried to get Tom Brady, and we've got all this
I
stuff in the
don't-
offseason,
there's none of
and
that.
now there's. And I'm like, don't you realize this is? If you're saying that, you're saying the league is complicit with this, and they determined this within a 12-minute span.
No, and
not
this
a
would
week,
be a huge
12-minute span when the guy
huge-
came back into the game.
Huge
I've seen-
scandal for them to circumvent it. For anybody but Tua to try to circumvent it.
It just
I
doesn't.
fully expect Tua did try to circumvent it.
But even if he did, like,
That's not his problem. It's set up to protect him.
There's
Other
just
people's
there's
jobs.
no motive. There's no possible explainable motive from league or team to put him back out there with a concussion.
Plus, I
They
believe
want to
he spoke
avoid that
after
at
the
all
game. I
costs.
believe he spoke after the game. We know he spoke to Ryan Fitzpatrick Wednesday night. He sounded fine. I saw that video last night.
Right.
There's no indications outside of his wobble in that game that he had a concussion. Of the things that we know about having a concussion.
And again, we can
The
dive
things that
into the
we know.
protocol. We can disagree with the protocol, but I don't disagree with the fact that people are saying that they did not follow protocol. I believe they did in this case, and now it's reaction to the second one. We can say they missed it. It's not intentional, which I
Yeah.
think is the reaction.
It's a
is
systemic
they did this
process,
intentionally.
and there are tons of we could speak to this, Hutton. There are all kinds of systemic processes that go on around the NFL game that are just rote. They just happen by formula all day long.
PKs plus money props. OutKick.com/bet. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, this is David Hookstead, host of American Joyride. On our latest episode, I sat down with Army veteran and former operator Jesse Betcher to hear stories about his time in the service just like this. This is one of my favorite questions. I love asking, what's the funniest thing you ever saw while deployed?
Oh man, there's some funny things. So people, I don't know, they think combat is all like, killing and blood and guts, or whatever. Man, I laughed every day overseas. We got into a couple. I can't think of the funniest thing, but something that just comes into my mind. It was a couple little pranks, and I'm not a big prank kind of guy.
Me either.
And so if somebody pulls a prank on me, I will log it, but I usually won't retaliate, because I'll think about it, and then but if it happens again, I'm gonna get you back. If you pull a prank on me, I'm gonna get you back like so much worse than you got me. And my kids know that. So there's no pranking that goes on in this house because my kids are well aware that they want, as an example. So we over in Iraq one time, those old alarm clocks with two bells on top and the big dinger in the top.
Yeah.
So there was one of those in our safe house. I don't know where it came from, but it was an electric one. So you didn't hear the ticking noise. So it was silent but it still had the big dinger with the bells on top. Anyway, so we're, like I said, we do stuff at night. So in the daytime, we sleep. Well, somebody had, we build these like bunks out of plywood and 2x4. So we had these wooden bunk beds, and somebody had taken some Velcro and stuck this thing up underneath my bed to go off at like 11 a.m., which is like right in the middle of my level 4 REM sleep, and this thing is super loud, and you wake up and it's completely dark in there because we blacken in all the windows to keep the sunlight out so we can sleep. So I wake up and this thing's going off, and I can't find it because it's Velcroed up under the bed, and I didn't do anything. And then it happened again. It was hidden up kind of like in behind a bookshelf. Like a week later, it goes off again in the middle of my sleep cycle. And I don't know who's done it yet, but there's 4 of us in this room. So I know it's not one of those 3 guys. So there's only probably 8 of us total in the house. So I'm like, okay, I got to narrow it down to 4 guys. And then it goes off a 3rd time. This time they got real creative, and they put it up in a ventilation duct where they actually had to unscrew the grate in front of the vent, put it inside there, and then screw it back on. So I couldn't even get to it to turn it off. But now I had it narrowed down to 2 guys. And the good thing is these 2 guys lived in a separate part of the house where they had their own room and their own shared bathroom. So what I did is I took a can of like heavy industrial strength pepper spray, and I just sprayed it on the toilet seat. And then I just sprayed it on and then just kind of wiped it off, leaving a film on there. And the next day, a guy named Kyle Lamb, I don't think I've told this story publicly before, but so Kyle Lamb comes into my room, and I've only seen Kyle mad twice in my life, and he was furious. And he comes in, and I'm sound asleep, and he comes in and starts screaming at me, poking his finger in my chest, and he's like, "What did you put on the toilet paper?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, man." He's like, "What did you put on?" And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I guess he went out in the room where the other guys were, and he dropped his pants, and his whole ass and back of his legs were bright red and just like burning because he didn't know what it was.
Right. Make sure to catch the full episode tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on OutKick.
We get you ready for your college football weekend in 5 minutes, but first, Paul's got your plus money line props going into the weekend for the NFL.
We've had 8 of 12, boys. We're going to keep this going. Jets, Steelers, not a lot of offense in this game. Just average out the punts. It comes to 9.9.
Look at Riley.
They're going to punt over 8.5 times in this game. That's plus 100. Riley Patterson to the Jags. He's going to hit over 1.5 field goals,
yes,
plus 115. Javonte Williams due for a touchdown, plus 120 against the Raiders. Josh Allen, anytime touchdown, plus 120. I'll take that any week.
OutKick.com/bet.
Great job.
Win $100 this weekend for Paul.
Winners.
If you're looking for a place to bet on a game today or a futures wager, head to OutKick's Odds Finder. OutKick.com/odds. It's where you'll find spreads, totals, and moneyline odds for every upcoming game. I love it because it's super easy to navigate. Bookmark OutKick.com/odds and make OutKick bets a part of your daily sports betting routine. For bets decided by season-long results, head to OutKick's Futures Finder. OutKick.com/futures. Just select your state, place your bet. It's honestly that simple. And similar to the Futures Finder, the Prop Bet Finder allows you to search by player, team, or game for any sport. Check out the OutKick.com/props, and from there, click the Odds tab. You'll go directly to the sports book to place your bet. Boost your game day experience with OutKick Bets. OutKick.com/bet. Get the edge with OutKick Bets. Happy Friday to you, just like that. The final hour is here. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. The crew is all here as well.
The show is floating.
We are ready to get you to the weekend of football. All the kickoffs are tomorrow and Sunday. We'll get to the NFL pregame discussion coming up. But, Chad, every week, each Friday, you go through your top 10 games of the week. And you've got the storylines available. OutKick.com is where you can find Withrow's column on the top 5 storylines of the weekend. We have five storylines plus 10 must-see games for tomorrow's kickoff. I have a feeling that at least 3, and I haven't seen the list, 3 of the top, I'm going to say 7 games of your 10 are SEC-based. Again, Auburn LSU's got to be high, I think, based on the coaching change that could happen based on the result.
These are fair guesses.
Okay. Kentucky, Ole Miss, and, of course, Alabama, Arkansas. I don't know how you stack those two, but it is time.
Shall we find out
yes.
how I stack
We're going to count them down. We're going to count them down.
Shall we stack them up?
Withrow's top 10 games of the college football weekend.
Need more reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
I live by a bang hats at all time mentality, but
Yes.
you definitely bang hats on the Friday before a college football weekend. And guess what, boys? They're going to be banging hats tonight at the Rose Bowl because we got Friday night football. And that is game number 10 on my list. UCLA hosting Washington tonight. The Huskies, a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Kalen DeBoer, first-year head coach. Paul, you love this guy because you loved him at Fresno State.
I did love him.
You loved his quarterback a year ago. You know what I love about Kalen DeBoer's offense? Year 1, they're already over 300 yards passing in every game in this pass-happy offense. Michael Penix Jr., you got to say that one slowly, leads the nation in passing. He is third. Washington also on defense is third in sacks. Hud knows what I mean. Got to go slow on some names.
Penix.
Michael Penix. Penix.
Oh, no.
I'm not gonna.
We're having a throwback to a
It's
story
one
we
that
can't tell on air.
he needs a nickname. MP Jr. is what I'm going to call him.
He was nearly
right
a
now.
ball.
Yes, he was committed to Tennessee for a while. He's from Connecticut. As a high school player. Not a lot of high school athletes coming out, or football players coming from Connecticut, other than Aaron Hernandez. That story did not end well. Washington hoping this story ends well tonight at UCLA.
Washington is not getting enough discussion for the college football playoff.
They're 15th right now. Chip Kelly, by the way, is getting the run game going a little bit for UCLA. UCLA should have lost at home to South Alabama.
This might be a 2-part column, Chad, but here's a request for you. I don't know if you're taking requests at this time or if you have a backlog.
I love requests and suggestions.
I want a column about quarterback transfers who are doing well.
Oh, there are several.
Okay.
Good luck, Chad.
No, that's a great one. What if I did a top 5 doing well, top 5 bad decisions?
Great.
To transfer. Just I did with the backup quarterback.
So you're going to the next game.
Clicks from me.
I'll give the top and the bottom.
You're going to the next game.
to the next game.
I love that. Game
Number 9.
Number 9. Here we go. We're going to go to the Plains. That's right. Brian Harsin continues to fight for his life at Auburn and maybe try to lose so he can go back to Boise because they may have an opening soon. He could roll right back up to Idaho and coach the Boise State Broncos. But first, he's got to face off against LSU. LSU an 8-point favorite in this game, 6 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. LSU under Brian Kelly has rushed for over 200 yards in each of their last 3 games. Now, here is a factor in this one and why I'm going to give you a little betting advice. Hurricane Ian.
Yep.
It's moving into the Auburn area. About time for kickoff for this game. It's going to be rainy, and there should be just enough wind to matter in this game.
Run games do well in the rain.
Auburn must win the turnover battle to have any chance in this game. Take the under. It's 45.5. I think Auburn, it was 17-17 at the end of regulation against Missouri last week.
Chad, if it were
this
perfect
is going
weather,
to
what
be
would you
a
say?
defensive game.
Perfect weather,
way
take the
over.
under.
If this
Perfect weather, take the under.
If this was perfect weather, I would also probably advise you to take the under.
Way to ruin it.
The fact that it's bad
That's how
weather,
bad these teams are.
I hammer the under in this game.
Yes.
LSU is an 8-point favorite at Auburn tomorrow night.
I'm with you.
Is Jaden Daniels getting better?
He's got the back injury. Not a Tua Tagovailoa like back
So a
injury.
concussion?
Correct.
That's also a concussion. I think this is a legitimate back injury. unlike maybe what we saw from Tua. Game number 8 this week.
Number 8.
Oklahoma at TCU. Oklahoma, a 6-point favorite on the road, still 18th in the country after a disappointing home loss to Kansas State this past week. 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time on ABC. TCU, they won the Iron Skillet last week in their game against SMU. Oklahoma averaging over 40 points per game. TCU, their air raid, averaging 46.3 points per game. Gentlemen, I will not be advising you to take the under in this one.
No.
I would never advise you to take the under in this game. Should be a lot of points. Game number 7.
Number 7.
Number 4, Michigan. I like the echo coming from Paul, too. That's great. Let's do this for everyone. Number 4, Michigan, on the road in Iowa City to take on Iowa. 11 a.m. This is the Fox big noon kickoff,
Chad,
noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central.
I like plus 11 here.
Do you remember
Am
when
I
good
crazy?
teams used to go to Iowa and lose?
No, so
Am I crazy?
Michigan has a very sordid history in Iowa City, and a lot of teams do. It's a tough place to play. Now, Blake Corum from Michigan, you want to talk about a workhorse so far, the running back? 42 carries for 7 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks alone for Michigan. Iowa guys, 131st nationally in total offense. Paul, do you know how many teams there are?
I have them at 128th. We looked at different rankings.
If you think
in FBS there are 131 teams.
Does
so they're
Michigan
dead last.
score 17? If you think Michigan scores 17, then take the point. Yeah, you give the points
I would
here.
say if you think they score 17 and that's it, you don't take the points because I think Iowa will score 1 defensive touchdown in this game because they're averaging.
I would say
they're averaging a defensive or special team score and a half per game so far this season.
I would say a field goal.
So-
17-3 final, and you should take Michigan.
Iowa's offense, terrible.
How do you like the
Defense,
over-under?
Great.
42.
I would take the under. If I'm taking anything in this game, I'm taking the under. I'm taking Michigan to win this game, but it may be close. I'm with you, Hutton. This could be a game that Iowa covers in. Maybe surprising.
However, we saw the Big Ten championship game last year. Was it 44-3, 41-3? It was not pretty. Not pretty.
Game number 6, Hutton. We're going to the SEC
Number
for the first
6.
time.
Here we go.
Number 17, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. The Bulldogs of Mississippi State, a 4-point favorite. This is maybe the best game of the season in the 3 p.m. Central Time slot on SEC Network. Usually this is a game that's reserved for the worst conference game of the week or an SEC team versus some, FCS school. This week, though, it's A&M at Mississippi State. A&M's defense good enough to keep this one low-scoring and manageable. Hutton, we know this, though. The offense, still a problem, especially with Aeneas Smith out for A&M.
And
Devin Achane is their only real playmaker on offense.
It's run game, run the clock, controlled time of possession, low-scoring game. That's what A&M wants to do, and they win that way. It's not pretty. They win that way. But use that accordingly. Max Johnson, people thought they were starting the wrong quarterback. Max Johnson is 21 of 41 in his 2 games.
I want to make a declaration. I hate Texas A&M. Period.
Yeah, good.
Hate them.
Good.
Vegas does not. Vegas does not on
Max
neutral
Johnson.
field.
I mean, if this is high-level quarterback play.
Max Johnson has mastered the art of the fadeaway 3-pointer pass.
Yeah.
Where he gets pressure in his face, and I mean, is backpedaling and jumps and lofts it to a guy in coverage who somehow catches it.
Just go wildcat.
He did it
with
multiple
Achane
times.
and put an extra blocker.
Yeah,
on the
against
field.
Arkansas. Their offense is bad.
Mississippi State went to College Station and won 26-22 a year ago. Achane, by the way, for A&M, since they've turned things over to him because the quarterback play's been bad, he's scored in all 4 games this season. Mississippi State, however, they spread the ball around. They have 7 different receivers with 10 or more receptions this season.
Mississippi State should methodically pick them apart.
Should. But they have slowed down. They have slowed down in recent weeks.
Speed up.
I aim for honesty, and if I have a great
A&M
feeling about a
defense is
game,
very good.
I have an SEC parlay for you in this top 10 that I feel very strong about.
Yep.
I will be honest with my strong feelings. I'll be honest when I have no clue. I have no clue what to pick in this game. None. Because A&M, since they lost App State,
but beat Arkansas.
They beat what looks like maybe a bad Miami team, but beat them, not by a lot. They find a way to beat Arkansas. They lose to Mississippi State a year ago, But their defense did really well in that game.
Yes.
Against Mississippi State in the air raid. So I don't know what to pick in this game. If I, had to, I would say State wins, but should be a close game. Game number 5. College football games of the week. I love Wake Forest offense and watching.
Fun.
I mean, it is. If you want to watch the slow mesh of the Clawfence, the Dave Clawson offense, where to this day, I try to fathom how they pull this off. But,
no.
Paul, it's this slow handoff where Sam Hartman gets it, and they're reading the defense for a solid 2 seconds with the ball, and the running backs.
The running back's about to take the football.
They're running towards the line, and it's the slow mesh. I don't know how they don't fumble it more, because it is you got to be really on the same page, because Hartman's either going to rip it out of his chest, his stomach, and throw it, or he knows he's got to take it.
It's effective.
At some point. It's effective. It works. Running back and quarterback have to be on the same plane at all times and know what the decision's going to be, and they have to share that decision in the moment. Fun to watch. Florida State's been fun to watch this year, too. Jordan Travis has been really good at quarterback so far. Guys, LSU's not bad since they lost to Florida State. Florida State just might be pretty good. Mike Norvell may be turning it around in Tallahassee. This game in Tallahassee, the Noles, a 6.5-point favorite, 2:30 Central Time on ABC.
The loser of this game, Kansas, gets their spot in the top 25 if the Jayhawks win.
I like it. Kansas needs to win, because if they win, I think they are going to be in the top 25 regardless. Game number 4 this week, going to the Big 12. Number 9, Oklahoma State at number 16, Baylor. Baylor, a 2.5-point favorite, 2:30 Central Time on Fox. We had a great preview earlier from our guy in Waco. This is shaping up to be a really good game. And, guys, the winner of this game may end up being your Big 12 champions.
Implications, Big 12 title race. You got Oklahoma already one loss. Winner of this game in the driver's seat for sure. Soon to be the face of the conference, because Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. They've already played for the Big 12 title game a year ago. The winner of this game, to me, is the front runner for the face of the conference moving forward.
Baylor killed Oklahoma State's hopes of a playoff bid last year, narrow hopes, 21-16 with a goal line stand last year. My guy Spencer Sanders had 4 picks in that game.
21-16 the final. It's a fun game.
So Baylor lost a close one at BYU, but then they go to Iowa State and pick up an impressive win last week. Baylor on the road. So this should be a fun one to watch. Game number 3.
Number 3.
Alabama at Arkansas. Alabama, second in the nation, 17-point favorite. I don't necessarily get it. I feel like every time I say I don't get it, Vegas wins in this. Arkansas lost by 7 a year ago. KJ Jefferson was pretty good in that game. Arkansas had a lot of yards offensively. I don't see where Alabama's a lot better this year than they were a year ago. I think Arkansas is a little bit better.
What you're saying,
about the same.
What you're saying is
Arkansas
has improved. Alabama is the same, which means they're SEC championship worthy, right? You're not saying they're worse than last year.
No, they're a very good team, obviously.
They've been a bit shaky on the road. A bit shaky, in quotes.
Yeah, they find a way to win, though. Like, even when they're not playing their best, or they're making, like, dumb penalties, 12 men in the huddle, delay a game, out of a timeout. They overcome that. Bryce Young, consider this about his time at Alabama. His true road games as a starter. Tell me what you notice. 2021 against number 11 Florida. They win 31-29. 2021 A&M. They lost that game 41-38. At Mississippi State, they win that game 49-9. 2021 against Auburn. They win in overtime, 4 overtimes. 24-22 was the final in that one. And then at Texas this year, 20-19. The spread is 17.5 in a true road game. Give me the points. Alabama wins, but give me the points in this one against the Razorbacks.
It's one leg of my 3-leg parlay that I feel strong about.
Arkansas
covers.
Got some bouncing back to do.
Arkansas covers.
5 true road starts, 4 3 points or less.
We had Josh Pate on yesterday to talk about this. Arkansas outplayed A&M and just lost by some really miserable luck in that game.
Yeah.
When you look back on it. So I don't feel any worse about Arkansas after that game.
Yeah, A&M won that game.
I liked Arkansas so much in that game, I bet it on 2 separate occasions, unknowing to myself. You ever do that? I was like, I bet this game.
Like this
and then
spread.
I saw it later. I bet it already.
I will be surprised if Arkansas is not right there in the fourth quarter with Alabama with a chance to win. Game number 2.
Number 2.
Number 10, NC State at number 5, Clemson. Clemson, a 7-point favorite. Clemson finally got some offensive mojo back this past week against Wake Forest. Wake Forest, not the best defense, but DJU had his best game, maybe ever, as a Clemson Tiger in that game. NC State guys, you know this from the beginning. I'm not a big believer, but defensively, they've got the type of team that can keep this thing right in range, even on the road at Clemson. That's why Clemson's only a touchdown favorite. 7:30 Eastern Time kickoff, the night game on ESPN. Going to be a great environment in Death Valley, and certainly one to watch for ACC championship implications.
So you know how I feel about NC State, right?
Yeah, you and I both picked them to
They
win
have
this.
not played well.
They got to win this game.
They won this game a year ago. They have not won since 2002 there. This is the year, if they're going to do it. They've chirped all off season about, we couldn't do the bowl game because someone, there was a team that faked issues and they didn't want to play us, so we didn't get 10 wins. This is one of those games where you're better. You've got the quarterback back. You've got, you've multiple pieces defensively. You go on the road and you win this game. Clemson is not Clemson, which is pretty clear after week 1, but they're improving. They're closer to Clemson now than they were in week 1. Therefore, I can't wait to watch this game, and this will show a lot about the Wolfpack and their coaching staff.
Clemson gave up 259 yards in the air to Furman, 311 to Louisiana Tech. They better give up air yards to Devin Leary.
They have scored 175 points, which is second most in program history to this point in the season.
Great points made by all, and I will say this Saturday we're going to have a much clearer picture of the ACC. Wake Forest, Florida State, that winner, and then the winner of this game between Clemson and NC State. Game number 1, guys, I feel very strongly about this. Kentucky is going on the road and beating Ole Miss in this game, and they are a 7-point underdog. Another line that makes me ask the question, what does Vegas know that we don't? This is an 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff on ESPN. Lane Kiffin is bitching about his student section leaving early and oftentimes not even showing up. He's calling his own home atmosphere a high school-like atmosphere, and that his guys have to learn how to play above that and not expect a good atmosphere from his home crowd. I feel like the Ole Miss faithful will respond this weekend against the top 10 team, and it's going to be a packed house and a good atmosphere.
Chris Rodriguez is back.
I do not believe in Jackson Dart leading this Lane Kiffin offense right now. When you have all these ideas about what a Lane Kiffin offense looks like, this is Zach Evans' run. This is a running game. They have one of the best running backs in college football. Kentucky has a way to win ugly. I believe in Kentucky's ability to win ugly more than Ole Miss. Give me Kentucky in a close game.
We always ask, what does Vegas know that we don't know, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The spread's what, 6.5?
7 right now.
7. Ole Miss is getting 7 at home against Kentucky. Kentucky's already gone on the road and won in Gainesville. Will Levis, time to step up, bro.
Yeah,
You're going against Ole Miss's defense. It's time to be a first-round pick on Saturday. You're an underdog on the road at Ole Miss, and you were picked 2nd in the East. It is time to step up and act like a first-round pick and play like one Saturday in Oxford.
I think it gets it easier now. Chris Rodriguez comes in and takes some of the load off.
Vegas knows that, though, Paul, and they're still a 7-point underdog on the road against Ole Miss. Like, they're unbeaten in September for the 2nd consecutive year. This is zero respect for the quarterback situation, not at Ole Miss, but at Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And Will Levis has got all this hype about first-round caliber talent. Go prove it. Go prove it against Lane Kiffin's, not his offense, against Lane Kiffin's defense. It should be a layup for Kentucky.
Lane Kiffin's defense.
Are you with me here?
I agree.
Lane Kiffin's defense is a little bit better, I think,
but
this
what does
year.
that mean?
It means it's average in the SEC. No, I'm with you. I have never bought the hype on Will Levis, and I continue to read piece after piece about how he is the one first-round pick, the outside of Bryce Young in the SEC. I just do not understand it from what I've seen on the field. But I think Kentucky goes down there and wins outright as a touchdown underdog.
I'm with you on your top 10
By the way,
games.
my parlay for the SEC, if you want to play this with us,
Kentucky.
Arkansas covers the 17. I think it's now 17.5.
It is.
Against Alabama at home. Kentucky money line as a 7-point underdog at Ole Miss.
Auburn LSU.
Under. Auburn LSU take the under at 45.5 at last check.
OutKick.com/bet is where you can do that. We go from college football to the NFL. We preview the upcoming weekend on Sunday. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You remember when Myles Garrett took the helmet off and swung it at Mason Rudolph? What did he say? Well, Mason Rudolph said racist things to me. Turned out to be crap. Happened the other day, turned out to be crap. All right? It happened about a month ago, turned out to be crap. He said that's the new go-to. When you act like an idiot on a football field, you then go to, he said racist things to me. It's no different than that little Duke volleyball player lying about racist stuff at BYU. Nobody's ever going to cover the lie. All we're going to do is paint a guy with a brush that he says racist things because some idiot acts like an idiot. Next thing you know, he's got to cover himself. I like Chris Jones and I like Matt Ryan. I'm going to tell you why. Colts game, Chris Jones sacks Matt Ryan. It's going to be 4th down and 1,000,000. And the Colts haven't moved the ball from me to that camera in front of me. Chris Jones, for whatever the reason, pushes down on Matt Ryan. No call. They're in a scrum. It's all right.
Well, I've seen enough of Tua to know that he's the future of this franchise. I mean, he made 2 throws last week that very few people can make, and and he's done that all season long, and he's done it really from the beginning. I think now he's healthy. He's around a coaching staff that has confidence in him and has provided confidence for him. I think he needed a couple of games like he had, the 6-touchdown game 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, where he led a furious second-half comeback.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
What's up, guys? It's Tommy. Don't forget to follow me on social media at Tomi Lahren. And in case you missed my last show, here's what you missed. Hashtag bring back masks was trending on Twitter this week because, as we know, liberals love masks. They always have and they always will. They will wear masks on planes, on trains, in automobiles alone, on playgrounds, on nature hikes, in the shower. You name it, they will wear 1 mask or even 2 in that place, regardless of other humans or breathing organisms are present or not. Hell, they love their freaking masks, even when the science tells us they are next to useless. And even when the CDC, which it has dropped much of its masking guidance. And that's fine because, quite frankly, the less we have to see of their faces, the better. But these maskers must not have a lot of confidence in their COVID shots 1 through 6. But liberals don't just want to love their precious masks for eternity. They want you to do the same, and they are really fired up you're not forced to anymore, hence why it was trending on Twitter yet again yesterday. I don't think it's a secret I'm not afraid of COVID now, and quite frankly, I haven't been since April of 2020. But at least by this point, most Americans have joined me in returning to the old normal where we breathe air unabridged, gather in large groups, travel and go to work in actual clothes in an actual and professional setting. Why? Because we want to, and most of us, quite frankly, have to. But not our members of Congress, though. They are still able to vote by proxy, meaning they can ramrod through idiotic legislation such as the falsely titled Inflation Reduction Act without being present on Capitol Hill. That's the case of Iowa Democrat Sidney Axne, who didn't vote in person last month for the Inflation Reduction Act, citing the ongoing public health emergency as her reason for voting by proxy. But oddly, that public health emergency didn't stop her from vacationing with her family in Europe. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down all the hot topics and, of course, give you my final thoughts.
We are getting ready for the football weekend. We've got, Chad, your top 10 college football games.
Hey, we got
a
packed house at 6th and Peabody also.
Yeah.
We got a
People
lot
trying to
of
pop
looky-loos
in.
coming through here.
The bathroom attendant hasn't started eating yet, so the weekend's really hasn't begun.
They're looking at Corey and Matty Ice, and these guys are so diligent and so hard at work, they don't even see out there. I've got the perfect vantage point to see everything that goes on by just looking to my right with people shopping for moonshine. And on Fridays, if you're ever in Nashville, please come see us because it is a terrific scene.
We are in the beer garden right now on the big screen. Indoors, we've got live music. So if you hear Shania Twain, chances are you've heard that before in the background.
That's her. She's here.
Or someone's being paid to play her song.
Man, I Feel Like a Woman. We found out yesterday the top requested song.
By far.
From every female vocalist that takes the stage at 6th and Peabody. Man, I Feel Like a Woman from Shania Twain.
Guys, we're headed back to London for a league. Yeah, 9:30 a.m. Eastern is the kickoff time for the Vikings and the Saints this weekend as a part of our Week 4 look ahead for the top games of the NFL weekend. We've got Minnesota favored by 3 points. It doesn't look as though Jameis Winston's playing in this one, which means Andy Dalton is likely to get the start.
Might be better.
Winston's got a back issue, which he's been playing through, and we've been questioning. Michael Thomas is not going to play for the Saints. That reflects this line. And on neutral field, the Vikings favored by 3 in London. How do you guys feel about it?
I don't like the Saints. I don't like the Saints when I obviously like Michael Thomas. I don't know that Andy Dalton is a heck of a lot worse than Jameis Winston in a spot start. Maybe over a course of a season. I like the Vikings here. I'd probably give the 3 too.
I would bet the Vikings -3. I've never been a huge believer in the Saints, but we have seen this season that it feels like if we're looking at the seesaw of a team, that oftentimes the team that seems down and out, that maybe they were picked to be a contender by a lot in the preseason, when it looks dire is when they step up. I'll say that about Cincinnati with the Jets a week ago. Now they get to 2-2 with a winner of the Dolphins. I thought they looked close to dead after 2 weeks because they couldn't protect Joe Burrow at all. Now they once again look to me like a playoff team.
Well, they've only allowed 3 sacks in the last 2 weeks.
Maybe this is
better.
My only point is maybe this is the course correction week for New Orleans. They need to go to London to figure it out, and they're going to get it done. But my mind says Vikings.
Minnesota's only 2-1. It's not like they're steamrolling.
No, but
which teams are right now?
Better than the Saints.
About 3 of them.
Yeah,
better than the Saints. But my point is, the Saints just lost at home to Carolina, who may be the worst team in the league.
And the Vikings came back. The Lions let Minnesota off the hook last week. They were up big.
They're lying.
And the Vikings came back and played well. The Lions did not, however, give Justin Jefferson any room to work with. 2 straight weeks he's been a non-factor for this offense because defensive backs have played well against him. Why do I bring this up? Well, Marshawn Lattimore is on the opposite side for the Saints defense in this game. And to me, it comes down to, is Justin Jefferson more like we saw week 1, or is he more of what we saw in week 2 and 3, where last week against the Lions defensive backs, he only averaged 2.5 yards of cushion. That was the lowest of any top receiver in week 3 across the NFL.
And you've got a counterpunch with Adam Thielen.
Yes.
Right? And with Dalvin Cook, he's dinged, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is.
But that can't be a one-trick pony if somebody's doing a great job on Jefferson, or if you've got a singular defensive back who's smothering him. You've got other options in that passing offense. Get to him.
Yes. This is, by the way, the 100th international game for the NFL.
That's something.
They're adding up a lot of preseason games, though, with that. There's not a lot of regular season games there.
59 of them.
Yeah.
59 of them.
59 of them are, preseason, I think,
preseason.
Right? Yeah. The
41 of them are regular season.
Yeah, that's
counting this game.
Bogus stat for them to pump up.
Well, it's still 100.
No, yeah. It's 100.
Next week, for those curious, the final team will have played internationally. This will be the Packers. The Green Bay Packers have not played there, and they are headed to London next week. So
are they in London or Germany?
Germany. No, it's
I
the
think it's
Tampa Bay is
London.
going to Germany
I'm pretty
later.
sure it's London next
okay,
week.
yeah, because Tampa Bay plays someone in
It's
there
Brady.
are multiple games
Brady
in
to
London this
Germany.
year, including the Jags, which is to come. Next up, we continue our tour around the NFL. Jacksonville and Philadelphia.
It's a good game.
The Eagles favored by 6.5. And A.J. Brown has been as advertised. It's rare. Now, we're not saying this because we see him traded from our city in Nashville, elsewhere. It's rare that you trade for a receiver in the NFL and they immediately produce. They can produce, but we're talking first month production where they're the talk of the league. The Eagles' offense is that, and it's due in large part to what A.J. Brown has meant to the offense. Here's A.J. Brown comparing the Philly offense to the environment here in Nashville.
And Vrab, I got a lot of respect for him, but he's the Belichick way. Everything is lock in. No fun over there. We're gonna get the job done. But over here, he just letting us have fun, do what we do. Let us express our personality, and I think that's huge. You want somebody to express themselves and be themselves, so the real them can show on the game on the football field. So.
That's A.J. Brown with Josina Anderson on her podcast.
You know when A.J. Brown had a lot of fun? AFC Championship game? Had a blast. He had a blast.
Especially receiving passes from his quarterback.
Yeah.
He loves his quarterback right now.
Well, I just hear
When's the last time he said anything good about Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
Let me know if you've heard it.
He said he was the best leader he's ever around.
No. He said Marcus Mariota was the best leader he's ever heard.
That's right.
Yeah,
he had fun when he loved Marcus Mariota, apparently. I mean, to make it like he had no fun when he was here is just more bogus A.J. Brown talk. I don't disagree with you about anything about the production.
He has never said anything nice about Tannehill.
But him talking smack about Vrabel is ridiculous. Vrabel, we all know Vrabel doesn't run New England here. Vrabel's not a Belichick disciple. Vrabel's more a Mike Tomlin disciple. He's more a disciple of Bill O'Brien. He's more a disciple of Luke Fickell. He's more a disciple of guys that he's friends with.
But in regards to no fun teams,
for.
New England's number one because Tom Brady and Logan Ryan and everyone else would tell us that. Who's number two? AJ saying it's the similar situation.
How many teams have he been on?
And again, I just don't see that.
He's not comparing it to Philly.
To me, though, I hear that from A.J. Brown, and I think, well, that's not an insult. I mean, it wins. It has won in the past with the Titans, and
there's nothing to complain about with A.J. Brown. He has backed up all of this talk.
I'm not a young
with great play.
I'm not a young NFL receiver, but my point is,
and guess who misses him?
I don't feel like it's a diss to say, man, I was just in the Titans, and they're all about doing your job and accountability and not sticking out. I'm like, okay, great. Sounds like a good organization to me.
Well, that's what they say. But is Dylan Radins accountable? Is Caleb Farley accountable? Is Isaiah Wilson accountable?
Farley was accountable last week. He got his ass sat on the bench.
Flip side of that
to throw out the mantra, you have to back it up. I don't see this team backing that up all that often.
They're not this year. And look, it's all breaking this year. But up until this year, it's been okay with the Titans in terms of wins and losses, especially compared to Philly up until now they get A.J. Brown. But here's the other thing. Taylor Lewan had no problem being himself and having fun. So,
I agree.
I mean, how many players do I know on the Eagles from their personality other than A.J. Brown now? My only point is
he did that and they took the captaincy away from him.
I don't buy that also because he sucked.
It's malarkey as a rookie.
And he had way too many penalties. I think was the biggest reason he got his captaincy taken away.
I mean, A.J. Brown's doing great there. I don't know why he's compelled to keep taking knocks at the Titans.
I don't disagree with him.
He was asked about his offense.
I'm sure Nick Sirianni is, maybe more fun to play for than Mike Vrabel. I don't know.
I just feel like a lot of people here are defensive over the trade and why they traded him.
Oh, I think it was
anyone
stupid
here
to
is
trade him.
And me too. The day afterwards, I came in and said, he exemplified everything they talked about, everything that Chad just mentioned. That guy was about, including making plays on game day.
And they didn't replace him.
Yeah, they made themselves worse.
They traded the guy away.
I mean, I said it the day it happened. I can see what they're thinking. Oh, we don't want this guy who's being loud and that we're going to pay a lot of money. So
he's a wide receiver.
We'll get a cheaper version of him in the draft, and we're going to draft a guy who's very similar to him in college, and then it's going to work out. But you do that, and you know you're not going to be better the next year. So the big issue on the Titans' perspective for me is You took yourselves in a window and took yourself out of the window by doing that, by saying we're going to do something for the future.
Too smart for their own good. Philly's second in the league in sacks with 12. They're allowing an NFL low 4.4 yards per attempt, and that's versus Goff, Cousins, and Wentz. I hate to see what they're going to do. I think Lawrence will put up a better fight than that. I think this is going to be a good game.
Paul, how shocking is it, though, that week 4 of the AFC South, the most interesting game in the AFC South is not Titans-Colts. It's Jags-Eagles.
Well, we said that Trevor Lawrence should be the best quarterback. We said Trevor Lawrence should be the best quarterback in this division, and now we're still going to call it the quarter poll 4 games in for the sake of our math, and he's going to be the best quarterback in this division.
I nearly picked this game.
I didn't think it was going to happen right now.
I think he is going to be right now.
I nearly picked this. If he is, he's Andrew Luck and then some, because he's living up to it.
Well, it's not hard to be better than Tannehill and Ryan and Davis Mills.
I don't know that he should be better
than them. Have you seen his numbers?
Right now,
he's far better than them right now.
Yeah.
Let's also mention how they win this game. They don't win this through Trevor Lawrence. In my opinion, they win this through James Robinson.
And ATM.
You can run the football against the Eagles defense right now. I don't know if you can in December because they're young. They're young in the middle, and they're young at linebacker. They can run it right now. That's how Jacksonville goes on the road and wins outright. I nearly selected it. I didn't.
It's a very compelling game.
Because I think Hurts and the receiving core, and they're locked in. You have to score a certain amount to get there. Jacksonville may be able to do it with their run game.
If the Jags win this game, the talk and everything goes, whoo, they take off like a rocket.
Yeah, we have our front runner for Coach of the Year, too, as well. Bills and Ravens, very intriguing here. Paul, I mentioned this to Chad yesterday, so no cheating, Chad. Lamar Jackson, over-under 15th in the league on how often he's blitzed. So would you say he's top half or lower half?
Bottom half of being blitzed? I think it's stupid to blitz him because if he gets through you, he goes. So, but the way you're laughing, over.
My answer was he was going to be one of the least blitzed quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah,
through 3 weeks, he's the most blitzed starting quarterback in the league.
That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
I agree. But here's the key.
Let's see what the Bills do.
They're the least blitzing team in the NFL through 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They only send 4.
Bills have real problems in their secondary. Micah Hyde down, Tre'Davious White still not off PUP, and now Christian Benford's got a fractured hand. Lamar also accounts for 87% of Baltimore's total yards. If you can find a way to slow him down, there's put it on somebody else's hand. Belichick wasn't able to do that, right? You want to take away option number 1. He's option number 1, 2, and 3.
Last week, Mark Andrews accounted for 52% of their offense to the passing game.
How about this?
Get ready for him to take off against Buffalo's
How about
defense.
this on the other side? I was stunned by this. Devin Singletary ran 45 pass routes against the Dolphins. 45 pass routes by Buffalo's running back.
And they moved McKenzie, who was a running back, to slot receiver.
He ran fewer routes than Singletary. He ran the second most. That's the second most to Diggs.
Raiders 0-3. Broncos need a win in the division.
Those teams both suck.
They do. The winner of this game, though, is alive for a playoff contention. The other one's eliminated. And I know that the Broncos have some wins. And I know the records are skewed here. The Broncos they've won against
San Francisco,
11-10,
game.
And then they beat Houston 13-9 or something like that.
Renfro
the Raiders,
back, presumably off a concussion here.
Paul, the Raiders had no business leaving Nashville last week 0-3. Based on the roster I watched take the field for the Titans.
That was an out-coaching job, too.
So,
McDaniel's unable to get the ball to his best people.
That's why I think the winner of this is they're alive, the loser's done.
And I think the alive one is in trouble, too. I mean, it's going to take a huge turnabout for either one of these teams to be in it. We overrated both of them tremendously, I think. Renfro, I think, could give the Raiders a spark. I'm presuming he's back from his concussion.
Hey, kudos to Eli Manning also for not apologizing for the joke he made on the Manning cast, which was hilarious.
And good for Russell Wilson.
They were talking about the
Russell Wilson had a good comeback.
Is it Waitman, the punter for Denver and his average? Yeah. And Eli joked and said, hey, they should have given that punter $235 million instead of Russell Wilson based on his production.
6 of his 10 punts were inside the 20.
And Russell Wilson came back and said, oh, Chad Powers said that? Well, I was 3-0 against Chad Powers in my career, which is a great response.
Yeah.
And he laughed as he said it. So
I feel
terrific.
like things are slipping away from Russell Wilson.
Well, he hasn't started well at all.
I think this is all a Nathaniel Hackett problem, who I buried after week 1.
Maybe
I
so.
think this is that he is the issue. It's not Russell Wilson. I've seen a lot more from Russell Wilson in this league and a lot of good things. And I've not seen a lot from Nathaniel Hackett as a head coach. And what I've seen is very bad. And I see an organization that felt compelled to hire someone to make decisions for him in game. That's not good.
Well, you could say at least the guy was smart enough to know he's dumb enough to need this guy.
You should have known that.
He should have known it. Yeah, right. When he put his staff together.
Let me be very clear about this. Great that you admitted that you're dumb enough to do that.
No.
Also,
look, I love your
you
take
are not
that he's done after 1 week.
Not capable of being an NFL head coach. If you need to hire some retired special teams assistant to make in-game decisions for you.
Dude, I wish I beat you.
Head coaches make the decisions.
I wish I beat you to the idea that he was done after 1 week.
Man.
No, a lot of head coaches have a guy in their ear helping them. You just don't hire him in week 3, and it doesn't turn into a big thing after you've struggled for those 3 weeks. He's part of your initial staff. And then it's not a big deal.
Tom Brady is 10-0 against the spread following a game which was a loss, where he's going into a game where he's the underdog. All right?
It's a little complicated.
It's a complicated
he's an
step.
underdog this week. Chiefs at the Bucks. Kansas City's favored by 2. The Bucks are coming off a loss. Brady's an underdog. He is 10-0 over the last 20 years as an underdog coming off a loss.
I'm not feeling great about Tom Brady. A bunch of his receivers are questionable. I know a lot of this has been about the receivers. He doesn't look like he's throwing the ball great. He doesn't look like he's feeling it great.
He looks like 2019 Brady in New England.
Is he still?
I don't feel great about it. I'm taking, and the Chiefs are coming off a loss.
Is he still taking Wednesdays off?
They shouldn't have. Yes.
No, no.
Oh, he
He's
got off
practiced
there?
Wednesday. The hurricane hit, so he was there, and they were.
Oh, it's trapped. They couldn't get to.
Yeah, but is the
couldn't
plan
get
to
Belize.
continue
Not even trapped.
Wednesdays
They
off
moved to
moving forward?
Miami. The Bucks have been practicing in Miami, and he went with them this
We
week.
could have flown from Miami to Belize.
Is the plan though after
Well, he was
this?
with Giselle there.
Is
so
the
he's
plan
happy.
after the hurricane to continue taking Wednesdays off?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think the Chiefs bounce back from a tough loss. I mean, they're pissed they lost to the Colts, I'm sure. The Colts are inferior to the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to bounce back. I'm not liking what I see from the Bucks. I think once they get their people back, it's going to take a little while to get flowing. And I need convincing that Brady hasn't lost some.
The Bucks will rally behind the people of Southwest Florida after Hurricane Ian.
Watch out.
Tom Brady,
Watch
who
out.
is on my fantasy team, is going to respond in kind, and the Bucks are going to win
Are
this
you
game.
winning with him?
I got to remember which team he's on.
Yeah.
Because I'm undefeated with one team, I'm 2-1 with another. So I guess I'm technically winning with either one. He's on the team that's 3-0.
I had the classic conundrum that you guys make the case as why you can't have more than one fantasy team.
Two
We
is too
all
much.
do.
One extra is too
I
much
had
for me.
Saquon Barkley against Saquon Barkley. So I was going to win one game and lose one game depending on what he did. And sure enough, I won one game by 0.4 and I lost one game by 0.4, all because hinging on Saquon Barkley's Monday night performance.
I'm awful at seeing who my opponent is and who they have on their team until it gets down to the nitty-gritty. Then I'll look and say, okay, who do they have left? And that's when I pay attention if it's close. But I have no idea when
Depends
it starts.
on which screen I'm looking at. I'm
It's
like,
all-
damn you, Saquon. And then I look at the other screen and
Paul,
go, all right, Saquon.
I take the mantra in fantasy football of most coaches. It's about what we do. It's not about the opponent. It's about what we do this week, and it'll take care of itself.
But what
we
if
don't
you're
worry
both
about them.
defending him
We
and
worry about ourselves.
What if you're defending him and giving him the ball?
Yeah, that's a tough. That's
Coming
a
up,
quandary.
our thoughts on Titans and Colts and much more. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, this is David Hookstead, host of American Joyride. On our latest episode, I sat down with Army veteran and former operator Jesse Betcher to hear stories about his time in the service just like this. This is one of my favorite questions. I love asking, what's the funniest thing you ever saw while deployed?
Oh man, there's some funny things. So people, I don't know, they think combat is all like, killing and blood and guts, or whatever. Man, I laughed every day overseas. We got into a couple. I can't think of the funniest thing, but something that just comes into my mind was a couple little pranks. And I'm not a big prank kind of guy.
Me either.
And so if somebody pulls a prank on me, I will log it, but I usually won't retaliate, because I'll think about it. And then, but if it happens again, I'm going to get you back. If you pull a prank on me, I'm going to get you back like so much worse than you got me. And my kids know that. So there's no pranking that goes on in this house because my kids are well aware that they want, as an example. So we, over in Iraq one time, those old alarm clocks with 2 bells on top and the big dinger in the top?
Yeah.
So there was one of those in our safe house. I don't know where it came from, but it was an electric one. So you didn't hear the ticking noise. So it was silent but it still had the big dinger with the bells on top. Anyway, so we're, like I said, we do stuff at night. So in the daytime we sleep. Well, somebody had, we build these like bunks out of plywood and 2x4. So we had these wooden bunk beds, and somebody had taken some Velcro and stuck this thing up underneath my bed to go off at like 11 a.m., which is like right in the middle of my level 4 REM sleep, and this thing is super loud, and you wake up and it's completely dark in there because we blacken in all the windows to keep the sunlight out so we can sleep. So I wake up and this thing's going off and I can't find it because it's Velcroed up under the bed. And I didn't do anything. And then it happened again. It was hidden up kind of like in behind a bookshelf. Like a week later, it goes off again in the middle of my sleep cycle. And I don't know who's done it yet, but there's 4 of us in this room. So I know it's not one of those 3 guys. So there's only probably 8 of us total in the house. So I'm like, okay, I got to narrow it down to 4 guys. And then it goes off a 3rd time. This time they got real creative and they put it up in a ventilation duct where they actually had to unscrew the grate in front of the vent, put it inside there, and then screw it back on. So I couldn't even get to it to turn it off. But now I had it narrowed down to 2 guys. And the good thing is these 2 guys lived in a separate part of the house where they had their own room and their own shared bathroom. So what I did is I took a can of like heavy industrial strength pepper spray, and I just sprayed it on the toilet seat. And then I just sprayed it on and then just kind of wiped it off, leaving a film on there. And the next day, a guy named Kyle Lamb, I don't think I've told this story publicly before, but so Kyle Lamb comes into my room, and I've only seen Kyle mad twice in my life, and he was furious. And he comes in, and I'm sound asleep, and he comes in and starts screaming at me, poking his finger in my chest, and he's like, "What did you put on the toilet paper?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, man." He's like, "What did you put on?" And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I guess he went out in the room where the other guys were, and he dropped his pants, and his whole ass and back of his legs were bright red and just like burning because he didn't know what it was.
Right. Make sure to catch the full episode tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on OutKick.
Big football weekend. OutKick 360 rolls on.
Big weekend for my Braves, too.
Yes.
Max Fried versus Jacob deGrom tonight, game 1 to decide the NL East.
So the idea is they play tonight,
Down
and
with the
then
Mets.
a doubleheader's coming up at some point,
They're
right?
probably going to be rained out tomorrow for sure. I don't know what the forecast is like tonight. Maybe tonight's in jeopardy.
Let's look it up.
Also, but probably, I'd say definitely tomorrow, they're not going to play. And then they could get a split doubleheader on Sunday, and they could keep that Sunday night baseball obligation on ESPN as the national game.
They may get this in all weekend. No, all weekend.
Oh, it may dodge them?
Yeah, it kind of went east.
Yeah, so they have dodged a bullet here. Perfect tonight, perfect Saturday, and right now, perfect Sunday.
76
That's great
for a
for
high,
Atlanta.
54 for a low.
So you get the sold-out crowd all 3 nights.
It sets up perfectly because it's the Braves' top 3 pitchers versus the Mets' top 3 pitchers.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have been better if the Braves found a way to
Just
win
won.
in extra innings against the Nationals to get the sweep, where the Mets came back down 4-0 and beat the Marlins. Now the Mets have a 1-game lead going into the series.
Paul, we've got the Titans and the Colts, each with a win on the season. Colts hosting the Titans. They will play again on October 23rd. So within a month, we're going to have a great sense of how things line up for both the Colts and the Titans and the Jags. The Jags are done with the Colts as well by October 23rd. What do you make of the matchup on Sunday?
Well, I still think they're missing Harold Landry. Jeffrey Simmons has been quiet the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Now they're going to be playing Joe Jones or Dylan Cole at inside linebacker with Zach Cunningham out. Lonnie Johnson maybe at safety next to Kevin Byard with Amani Hooker out. I'm not impressed with those depth pieces, which I think could hurt them. So I'm with you. I lean Titans certainly on the coaching edge, but I also think like they're probably due to get back to splitting with the Colts rather than sweeping the Colts.
I'm betting on 2 things for them to get back in their winning ways, not just this week and last week, but moving forward. Number 1, they've got to run the football well with Derrick Henry. That's their identity, right? And they're close to that. They got him involved in the passing game too early. But again, like they're staging it. They're staging it. Number 2, they got to stop the run. They've been awful. Missing tackles.
Yeah, and you think Dylan Cole's doing
filling
that?
gaps.
That's where I'm scared.
But that's this week with Jonathan Taylor. It comes down to Taylor or Henry, and let's determine the best running back on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, and I think the game within the game is going to be aging Matt Ryan versus Ryan Tannehill with limited receiver options.
Yeah,
on both sides.
For both.
I mean, both teams are dealing with the same issues.
Well, we know they have
receivers.
Pittman. Who will the Titans go to? Because it changes up.
The Titans, to me, it just has a revolving door of someone who could maybe reach Michael Pittman's level each week. Maybe. That's not a good situation to be in.
Well, Woods emerged last week, but they didn't throw to him in the red zone. So does he grow there? And where's the Austin Hooper that we saw during training camp?
I think that Treylon Burks is eventually going to have just a breakout game soon. He's going to be the guy in one of these games.
But they've got to target him.
Yeah.
For that to happen.
Did he get 2 targets last week?
Yes. That's my concern is it's time to take the training wheels off this guy. Let's go. A.J. Brown had a 1,000-yard receiving season his rookie year.
And
let's go.
If he is the guy that you traded A.J. Brown away for to draft, he's ready to go. Like he wants it.
Should have been part of the plan.
But that part
wasn't, hey, let's trade A.J. Brown and bring in a guy we'll baby all year.
It's not even a development thing. It's he wants to go. He wants the ball. A.J. Brown wanted the ball at all times. Like this guy's got to want the ball, and it'd be a big part of the game plan. We'll start to find out if he is.
I think it'll be an interesting game. I don't think either team's particularly good.
I agree. One team should be better. To me, it should be the Tennessee Titans. The ownership in Indianapolis is measuring this game against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans should
the Titans aren't doing
on their identity. Henry should go off at the scene of the crime, by the way, where he was injured a year ago. He should take off this year. And if he does, the Titans are winning. If he doesn't, that means Jonathan Taylor won the game for Indy. That's how I see it. It's one of the two. Guys, we're back at it on Monday. Cheers to the weekend. Enjoy all of the kickoffs and recap it all with us on Monday, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern on OutKick 360.
Don't block the box, but be sure to lock your locks. See ya!